Well, hey all, and welcome to the MegaCast by Actual Tech Media. Our topic today is fixing your broken data protection, DRaaS, and disaster recovery. My name is Jess Steinbach, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you today for this important discussion. Now, let's all take a moment and think about our data protection programs. How robust are they? Do you trust them? Like, really trust that your organization is prepared and to protect and recover your data. What would happen, say, if somebody was able to get past your walls? How bad would that be? I'm guessing that for a lot of us here today, we've joined in this conversation because maybe we're not quite satisfied with the answers to those questions. So let's all think of our data protection and disaster recovery plans a bit like maybe an old car. So maybe we're looking at it and the bones are really good, the chassis is strong, we see a structure that's worth salvaging. Or maybe the whole thing has got to go. Whether it's a few extra bells and whistles, maybe you're checking out those heated seat warmers or a rear view camera, or possibly there's a total engine overhaul and you just need to get that all out before the whole rusty thing goes up in smoke. You're here today, you're joining in because there's something on that old car that you want to fix. And these fixes are not always easy. It takes planning, people, budget, time, and definitely 100% finding the right tools and solutions for you. And that's where the MegaCast comes in. So today, right here, right now, we will be joined by top innovators from Zerto and Tierepoint, Rubric, Haiku, Metallic, Commvault Venture, OVH Cloud, and Spanning. These awesome experts are here to talk to us about the tools and technologies that you need to level up your organization's data protection and disaster recovery strategies. So together we can explore the right solution to turn that old beater into a supercar. Now, if you have not joined us for a MegaCast in the past, a very special welcome to all the first-timers out there. Actual Tech Media created the MegaCast and EcoCast series to help educate technology professionals like yourself on the latest innovations and trends in enterprise technology. These webinars are designed to get you the hottest insights and up-to-date information to help you solve your most pressing technology challenges. All right, but before we get into our exciting sessions here, I have just a few things I want to go over with you that are going to help you get the most out of the MegaCast. Now, we do have some awesome prizes lined up for you. I'm going to chat about those in just a moment. So if your eyes went right to that prize icon, I get it, but hang tight just for a second. I want to actually draw your attention on over to the questions box in your webinar control panel. If you haven't already said hi, we love seeing all you awesome folks connecting from around the world. So, give us a virtual wave. Say hello to your friends out there in the Actual Tech Media community. Now, the questions console is also a great place to let us know about any technical issues that might come up today. Keep in mind that a browser refresh is going to clear out any of the usual tech gremlins. But if they're being a little persistent today, no problem. Just shoot us a message over that questions box, and the Actual Tech Media team will be there to help you out. Now, most importantly, though, we want this to be an informative webinar, which means that we want to see your technical questions. So throughout today's MegaCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all the data protection, DRaaS, and disaster recovery questions that you might have. I know there's going to be a lot. These are big and important topics, so keep those questions coming. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar, don't worry. The awesome humans from Zerto and Tierepoint, Rubric, Haiku, Metallic, Commvault Venture, OVH, Cloud, and Spanning are going to follow up with you afterwards. All right, now the next thing I'm going to draw your attention to in your audience console is that Twitter button. Now, when you have one of those cool little brain tickly aha moments during the MegaCast today, and I know there's going to be a lot of them, just click on that button there and you can share it with your friends. The hashtag for today's MegaCast will automatically be added to your post. And while you're clicking around in the audience console, the last thing I want to point out to you is the Handouts tab. You're going to find some fantastic resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an absolutely info-packed collection, data sheets, demos, ebooks, and more. So click around in that Handout section and be sure to download those awesome resources to save for later. Now, if I haven't met you before, my name is Jess Steinbach with Actual Tech Media. I'm so happy to be one of your moderators for this webinar today. I am also going to be joined by my friends and fellow moderators, Scott Becker, and David Davis, who will be here in just a moment to chat with us. But before we get into that keynote chat, oh, look at that. See, I told you that we would talk about prizes, and here we are. So in today's MegaCast, you have a chance to win one of 5 Samsung Galaxy Z or Z, depending on where you live. Galaxy Z Flip 4 phones, and that is not even including the $500 Amazon gift card that we're going to give away every 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes, folks. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live webinar to qualify for the prizes, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media terms and conditions. Now, if you're not sure what those terms and conditions are, no problem. You can head on over to the Handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the full thing there. Did anyone else think that I just sounded like a flight attendant there when I was saying that? If you look in the Handouts tab and scroll down to the bottom, you'll find the full T's and C's. I'm channeling my inner flight attendant today. All right, well, as I mentioned earlier, we love getting all of your technical questions. We want to see those coming in. In fact, we love it so much that we have a special additional prize for you. So in today's MegaCast, we will be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Each of our live sessions, the teams are going to review all questions asked after the webinar, which means that even if we don't get to your question during the live session, there is still a chance to win. So get those questions in. And also, hey, because it brings up the whole energy of the session when everybody's interacting and asking questions, we get to have a much more engaged conversation. So please do get those questions in. All right, now I have a few reminders for you up on the screen here, including that all grand prize winners are required to submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media. And again, if you have any of those questions, you can head on back. I'm going to do the voice again. You can head on back on over to that Handouts section, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the full T's and C's for you there. And if everybody's trays are in the upright and locked position, we'll keep moving with this MegaCast here. I do want to remind you all that if you are a winner today, you have an option to donate the value of your prize to one of our selected charities. Thanks to generous prize winners on previous Actual Tech Media webinars, thousands of dollars have been donated to these charities. So if you are a lucky winner today and you would like to get involved with one of these amazing organizations, let us know because we would absolutely love to help make that happen. Now, again, we're pretty happy to have you here with us at the live event. We want to keep that good feeling going, so connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and Facebook. We definitely want to hear from you. Check us out on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to that channel, do it now because there are so many great webinars for you. They're all on demand, just about any topic you can imagine, absolutely worth checking out. So head on over to that YouTube channel after we wrap today. Also check us out on LinkedIn, some great content there for you. And, oh, Russell Swinney out there read my mind. He just said the Gorilla Guides are definitely worth checking out. Look at that, Russell. You are a Nostradamus today. Gorilla Guides helping you navigate the technology jungle. These are absolutely incredible resources. If you haven't checked them out, please do go explore the Gorilla Guide Book Club. The book club gives you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts. So you get to stay up to date on all the trending enterprise technologies. We all know how fast this world moves. And the books are going to work on your Kindle or mobile device, and they are completely free. So go check those out. Download those resources at gorilla.guide. There's a link for you in that Handouts tab again. All right, well, I've definitely said this before, and I'm definitely going to say it again, but you guys are all pretty great out there. We love getting to know you. We want to get to know more of the people in your community. So another fun way to win a prize is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you're going to find a link to do that right there in the Handouts tab. For anyone keeping track, that's like 4 or 5 things that are in the Handouts tab just right before we even get started here, and that's not even including the resources. So I know you guys are already in there clicking around and exploring. And you're going to find, you're also going to get automatically redirected at the end of the webinar to do this referral thing. It's absolutely worth it, and I do want to promise you that we are not going to spam your friends and coworkers. I get it. That's a concern. We promise not to do that. We're just going to send them an invitation to a list of some really cool upcoming webinars. If they don't respond, we'll remind them one more time, and that's it. Then both you and your coworker or friend could win a $300 Amazon gift card. We hold those drawings every month, so be sure to get those referrals in. All right, well, that is it for all the webinar housekeeping. Whew, I always feel like I need a glass of water after that. And to kick us off today, I'm pretty excited to tag in this next speaker, my awesome friend and fellow moderator, Scott Becker. Now, Scott is here to chat with us about, well, broken stuff, since that's kind of the name of the game today. So we thought that that would be a fitting start. And really, anytime that we get to chat with my fellow moderators here, we're all going to learn something cool and interesting. So this should be no exception here. I'm going to hand the mic on over to Mr. Becker. Take it away, Scott.
Thanks, Jess. Yes, let's talk about data protection, disaster recovery as a service, and disaster recovery. There's an uncomfortable truth about our processes around data protection. A lot of them are broken. You all know that this stuff is hard and it's difficult to keep data protected and keep the protection processes current. We'll take a few minutes to go through some of the top ways that data protection and DR are broken. Oh, and by the way, just for fun, there's an AI twist to this presentation. See if you can guess what it is. So the number one way that data protection can be broken is that data is hybrid, disaster recovery is siloed. Let's face it, this is one of the biggest problems in IT today. Everything is hybrid now. Hybrid is the normal situation. We've got data in public clouds like AWS. We've got data in SaaS applications like Microsoft 365 and Salesforce. We've got data in on-premises data centers. It's all over the place. The cloud hasn't made it simpler, it's made it more complicated. In IT, nothing ever goes away, it just gets added to. And hybrid, of course, doesn't just refer to data. We've got hybrid work as well, which means data is on personal laptops. We've had to jerry-rig ways for remote workers to do their jobs, which often means porting data to the cloud as a stopgap. And again, that never went away. Yet a lot of our data protection and DR strategies are a few years old, which means they predate the pandemic shift to remote work. So we've got systems for backing up the data center, and we might have other systems for backing up infrastructure as a service and SaaS applications. And a lot of us suffer from the need for a single pane of glass and consistent processes. And that can lead to dangerous holes in our recovery strategies. So that's a big way that this stuff is broken right now. Next is number two, and that's sticker shock for cloud storage for backups. Putting backup data in the cloud seems like an obvious solution. We all know we need backups, and putting the backup in the cloud is often the easiest way to go. We can get into a lot of trouble trying to be good and do the right thing by creating backup copies of data in the cloud, though. If we put that data in too hot of a tier, or if someone on the team messes up a configuration, we'll often see really alarming bills from our cloud service providers. And what can be more expensive over time is the slow build of data charges that we barely notice, but that add up over the course of a year. Cloud is an incredible technology and an incredible business innovation for backup storage, but it's got to be optimized or it can get out of control. Let's look at a third way that data protection and DR can be broken. It's the length of time that a restore can take. This is something that sometimes emerges when we don't test our recovery time. Cloud storage volumes are enormous and they're getting bigger all the time. When the plan is to restore from one part of a vendor's cloud to another, that's usually not much of a problem. There's incredible bandwidth available in these mega vendors' data centers. And even going from one cloud to another company's cloud can be relatively fast too. When the plan is to, pull down that data from the cloud to an on-premises system, we're often looking at huge bottlenecks and enormous restore windows. So testing is important, and that brings us to number 4, which is outdated recovery testing. The huge multi-department tabletop exercises are incredibly important to do on occasion. There's irreplaceable value to getting everyone in the room and uncovering realities of business priorities that make effective triage possible in a real event. But not every test has to be a huge production like that. Cloud backup technologies present all kinds of opportunities for effective and powerful spot checks of backup and recovery that can be run much more often and at much less cost. The last one that we'll look at is that the air gap isn't, gappy enough, by which I mean it's possible for an attacker to navigate some virtual air gaps in a lot of organizations' 3-2-1 backup strategies. And a lot of us have found this out the hard way in a ransomware attack. So that's another way that DR plans are broken. Oh, and I promised an AI twist. So all of the images in this presentation were generated using the DALL-E 2 project. You may have read about it over the last few months. You can sign up for a free account and generate about 50 images and then get another, I don't know, 15 a month after that. But you basically type in a detailed description of up to 400 characters of the image you want to generate. And it takes about 15 or 20 seconds for the system to offer you 4 samples. Like, this is my first time trying it, and it's amazing. So, all that clip art in this presentation came from DALL-E 2. On this slide, you can see the descriptions I used to get the images. Personally, I like the little model hacker guy the best. I didn't know what I had in mind with my vague description there, but the result was pretty cool. Okay, back on track. We counted some things that are broken in disaster recovery, DRaaS, and data protection. So number 1, data is hybrid, DR is siloed. Number 2, that's sticker shock for cloud storage. Number 3, how long does it take to get the data back from the cloud into your on-premises system if that's what you need to do? Number 4 was outdated recovery testing. And number 5 was that the air gap is not gappy enough. Now, the good news is that there are great solutions that are available now to all of these problems and even more issues that I haven't gotten a chance to get into. And today we'll hear from some really innovative companies that have been thinking hard about solving these problems and have great solutions for it. So Jess, with that baseline established, let's get started with these sessions.
All right, Scott, I love it. And I don't know if you saw, I just posted in the chat. Scott told me after he generated all those images that he thought they were all a little too dark. And so to cheer himself up, he made an image of a mouse riding a motorcycle at golden hour, and it was just perfect. So love that. Love that program, and good guesses out there on the AI integration, and just an awesome start. Scott, thank you so much for such a great way to kick off the MegaCast here today. And we do have a poll up on the screen for you here. We're a little curious about what your time frame is for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company. So obviously today we're looking at data protection, DRaaS, disaster recovery. So the things you're hearing about today, what is your time frame for maybe making some changes? And this kind of helps us understand, are we getting the information to you at the right time? Is there information down the decision-making pipeline that we can help bring your way? So please do take a moment now and fill that out. Looks like we've got a lot of not sures in the audience, and you know what? That's great. That means that you guys are all still in the research phase. You're still excited, learning, exploring, so that's a good way to start out the day. Well, speaking of being excited, learning, and exploring, that brings us to our very first session in the day, and I am absolutely thrilled to introduce you all to our first 2 presenters. This is going to be a great way to kick off our MegaCast here. So we're going to hear from Mike Nassas, Product Marketing Manager at Zerto, and Jeremiah Anderson, Lead Solutions Engineer at Tierepoint. Mike and Jeremiah, thank you so much for being here to get us started today. Now, I know you both have some awesome content for us, so I'm going to hand the mic on over to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. First of all, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Mike Nassas. I'm a Product Marketing Manager at Zerto. I'm also joined by my colleague, Jeremiah Anderson, who is a lead solutions engineer at Tierepoint. They're actually one of our platinum partners. So I'd like to take the next 10 minutes or so before I hand it off to Jeremiah and talk to you about how Zerto can really help you achieve an uninterrupted 24/7 business, and why customers just like you really trust Zerto with the most critical of digital assets. So we'll kind of set the stage here with this, first piece. The continued and really growing threat of ransomware has become a C-level or a board-level priority, really, for all organizations and customers that we speak to, right? And unfortunately, it's no longer, a niche threat. It's really part of the larger picture that's related to disruptions. There's some crazy numbers on this slide. The total cost of ransomware by 2031 is going to be over $250 billion. That's a huge number. But I think the even crazier statistic, if you will, is by that year, every 2 seconds there will be a ransomware attack expected to hit a business or a consumer device. So, it's really not a matter of if, but when, right? Unfortunately, we're all just waiting for that attack to happen. So really, beyond the cost of recovery, we also, we have large disruption periods. To succeed in today's modern world, to succeed as a digital business, there's no tolerance for downtime from any disruption, right? And when it comes to ransomware, these disruptions can be huge. So 21 days or 3 weeks is really the average disruption period of an attack. And a quarter of those victims, quote unquote victims, who did suffer an attack actually suffered a period of having to close their business. So these are huge, life-altering things, unfortunately, when you have to close your business and you lose revenue and things like that. So that's the bad news. The good news is the reason I'm here talking to you right now is you really can do something about it. In fact, there's really a lot you can do about it, and that kind of starts with data protection, right? So data protection is really a crucial component in solving for these ransomware challenges. On the front end, you of course have identifying the threat and the detection part of it, and of course the response to it. But on the back end, this is where Zerto comes in and really shines. The recovery phases, or what we like to call the ransomware resilience phases, are what we do best. So if we look at the hybrid cloud landscape of Zerto, first of all, we of course have the private cloud, the virtualization side, where we can replicate from site A to site B and from site B to site A, all with minimal impact to your environment, with RPOs of seconds and RTOs of minutes, right? On the other side, we also have people using the public cloud and various other cloud providers for their disaster recovery and backup requirements. Now we can replicate out to not only the public cloud but also to managed service providers like Tierepoint that offer DRaaS, or disaster recovery as a service, in their own cloud environment. So we can do all this, and we can also replicate to more than one place at the same time. We can even have up to 3 different copies of the same data going to 3 different places. So this really provides you the ultimate flexibility, and you can even choose which apps go to which site. Of course, we also then have disaster recovery within and between clouds. So just because you're running apps inside a cloud environment doesn't mean that we're not susceptible to threats like ransomware attacks and outages. So we still have to make sure that we're prepared and protected for those scenarios as well. And of course, we have backup within and between clouds. So we store data inside cloud environments. So how do we ensure that data like SaaS apps are protected as well? And we can achieve all of these things with our simple, scalable solution. And lastly, you can even replicate to multiple clouds simultaneously. So in particular, what we really are laser focused on are 3 key use cases. Of course, ransomware recovery, which we just mentioned, disaster recovery as well, and that can be a natural disaster or something that's even a planned outage like an IT migration, and also multi-cloud mobility. So we're really focused on these 3 to ensure that all of our customers can achieve this continuous protection across any platform they use, and no matter what comes their way, right? So continuous data protection is really our secret sauce, so to speak. That's kind of what we pioneered and what underpins our technology. With this, you can actually recover using granular points in time to minimize data loss and drastically reduce the impact of a disruption. And we'll get into that, the specifics of that in a little bit. So no matter what platform you use, we have you covered in your cloud journey. And whether it's a ransomware attack or a natural disaster, we have you covered. So our differentiators are quite simple. We get your business back up and running in minutes with only seconds of data loss, all with the flexibility to be able to test at your leisure without any disruption. So the continuous data protection that I mentioned is really made possible by our block level replication technology. So it's near synchronous replication, which is the best of both worlds, right? It's less costly than synchronous, and there's no performance impact like asynchronous with snapshots, for example. And because we sit at the hypervisor level, we are a software-only solution, and we can be hardware and storage agnostic. So you simply set it up, replicate, and it's always on, and you're really always protected. Now, part of what makes the continuous data protection so powerful is the unique journaling capabilities that we have, right? So this is kind of the way that we are able to provide and produce these industry-leading RPOs of seconds and RTOs of minutes. So the journal actually tracks every single change made in your application or on your server, and it logs these as checkpoints every 5 to 10 seconds. So, for example, if you get hit with a ransomware attack at 10 a.m., it's actually very simple to roll back to 9:59 at 55 seconds and completely mitigate the infection and only have 5 seconds of data loss. So that's huge. And of course, to solve for the challenge of recovering these large, complex enterprise apps, you really need to protect your VMs or virtual machines as one cohesive unit. So you avoid the inconsistent recovery that comes with each VM being restored to a different point in time. So our approach actually protects and recovers at a granular level in the same state that you actually left off on for all of your apps. So this saves a ton of resources when you're trying to reduce the amount of time that's dedicated to recovery. So this is also another great way that we're able to, again, reduce resources for you and help to have a more consistent recovery approach. And of course, what solution would be complete without orchestration and manual processes that are automated? So with our solution, we have easy non-disruptive testing, the ability to do it often and anytime, even during business hours, and the ability for you to see how well your disaster recovery strategy is performing, how fast a failover happened, how quickly RPOs and RTOs are met, and obviously a lot more. And really this part of the solution really allows customers to feel more confident in the event that a disruption happens. So I've kind of mentioned all of our technology and talked about how we can help, but an actual real life use case is right here in front of you. One of our customers, they manufacture protective fabric for firefighters, military personnel, and other really demanding occupations. They actually got hit with a ransomware attack before they had Zerto. They were using antiquated backup tapes and disks, right, as their recovery solution. So attack happened, and they faced 12 hours of data loss and 2 weeks to recover. Of course, their services are too critical to be able to be down for so long, and the impact was unacceptable. They ended up adopting Zerto, changing their strategy, going with Zerto, and they went from 12 hours of data loss to 10 seconds of data loss, and from 2 weeks of recovery time to less than 10 minutes. So think about that, from weeks of recovery to minutes, and from 12 hours of data loss to 10 seconds. So these are just really staggering numbers that just pop out at you. So I hope I didn't run over. I would like to pass it over now to Jeremiah, and appreciate everybody listening in. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate the great partnership that Tierepoint and Zerto has established over the years. I also want to give a big thank you to everyone that's taken the time to join us today and allowing us to be part of this conversation. My name is Jeremiah, and I'm a lead solutions engineer at Tierepoint with around 20 years of experience. What I'd like to do first is give you a brief overview of Tierepoint, who we are and what we do. Then I'll dive in further on our business continuity and disaster recovery solutions, and specifically how we partner with Zerto to deliver our industry-recognized DRaaS solution. So in a nutshell, Tierepoint is a data center, cloud, and managed services company, really with a security-first approach embedded into the fabric of every service we provide. We have one of the nation's largest data center footprints with over 40 purpose-built facilities, all interconnected by our own fiber network with speeds up to 100 gig. We have cloud on-ramps to all the major hyperscalers that are accessible from every one of our data centers. Our geographic diversity with high-speed interconnectivity really enables us to deliver practically any IT transformation outcome our clients are looking for, including business resiliency with our next-gen disaster recovery services. This is a snapshot of our portfolio of services, ranging anywhere from data center outsourcing and colocation to managed cloud, security, and recovery solutions, including our focus today, DRaaS. We offer managed services for public cloud environments in Azure and AWS, and apps in Microsoft 365. We even offer managed services around very specialized platforms like IBM, SAP, and virtual desktops. We have a very tenured professional services team that provides services across the full portfolio. This slide is an outline of everything we do, but shouldn't be confused with we do everything. We really take pride in collaborating with our clients and meeting you where you are on your IT roadmap and can provide as much or as little assistance as you need. So speaking specifically about our DRaaS service, we've been doing it for decades and have a very mature soup to nuts practice from initial client onboarding and implementation to ongoing support, testing, and runbook management. We make DRaaS projects, which are notoriously complicated, an easy and pleasant experience for our clients, all while delivering the cost benefits of OpEx over CapEx and reducing your ongoing maintenance, support, and administrative burdens. When you choose Tierepoint as your DRaaS provider, you're choosing a proven and industry-recognized recovery services expert. We've been honored as Zerto's back-to-back Managed Services Partner of the Year and have over 1,000 active DRaaS clients protecting well over 14,000 VMs. So lifting the hood on our DRaaS solution, there's a few areas I'd like to highlight. All of our DRaaS environments are built and maintained on best-in-class infrastructure hardware. Nothing is cookie cutter, and we'll work with you to design a solution that's optimized for your environment. We deliver on very aggressive RPO and RTO requirements with a financially backed SLA that calls for 10 VMs to be brought online every 15 minutes. We can protect workloads to dedicated private clouds in any of our 40+ data centers, or clients can target our multi-tenant cloud pods that are strategically located in 8 of our data centers geographically dispersed across the U.S. and benefit from IaaS economies of scale. We also support hybrid deployments that leverage a mix of different cloud types, including public cloud. All of our DRaaS cloud environments are hosted in Tierepoint hardened data centers that adhere to best practice security standards and maintain several compliance certifications, including PCI, HIPAA, SOC 2, and many others. Customers with high security requirements or stringent compliancy regulations can greatly benefit from this during their audits. Our managed DR testing is done non-disruptively, utilizing Zerto's isolated sandbox testing. This allows us to not stop replication and continue to protect our client's production environment, even during a DR drill. For clients that want to be more hands-on, we do support self-service DRaaS, while our most popular is definitely our fully managed DRaaS, where clients benefit from our dedicated team of DR experts. Now, a hot topic on everyone's radar is ransomware. Like Mike outlined earlier, Zerto is a great tool in the fight against ransomware on many fronts. And we use it here at Tierepoint as our primary part of the arsenal we deliver for clients to combat ransomware. So diving deeper into how we help our clients with this, we really take a multifaceted approach. On the front end, we look to fortify a client's production environment to prevent ransomware from getting in. Utilizing a true defense in-depth approach, we'll layer on our managed security services, for example, multi-factor authentication, next-gen firewalls, web application firewalls, event correlation and threat intelligence, and many others. With all of our security services monitored and managed via our multiple SOCs and enterprise operation centers. But even with the best security in place, ransomware can still find its way in. And that's why it's critical to have a proven disaster recovery solution in place. And again, ransomware is a disaster event and should be treated that way. You need a dependable DRaaS program you know has been thoroughly tested with a regularly updated runbook and a DRaaS partner maintaining the health and wealth of the overall solution. Here's a glimpse of what you can expect the experience and timeline to look like during a ransomware event, comparing traditional DR or recovering from backups and Tierepoint's DRaaS powered by Zerto. Now, I'll first say it's important to have a recovery solution in place, period, but you can see the time it takes to bring the DR environment online and the amount of data loss is exponentially less with our managed DRaaS. And we'll typically see backup recovery take significantly longer than a day. And since backup recovery is rarely tested like our DRaaS, the amount of data loss is days just to find a valid recovery point, where the data loss with our DRaaS is typically seconds. In today's multi-cloud and quickly evolving world, we'll frequently see that a hybrid approach is the best fit both financially and operationally. This is an area that Tierepoint can greatly assist our clients. With the ability to offer multiple cloud solutions mixed with bare metal where appropriate, and all connected on a secure platform that's hardened, resilient, and recoverable, we offer our clients a true one-stop shop to untangle the complexities of hybrid and multi-cloud. Following up on one of the use cases Mike mentioned earlier, we'll also frequently use Zerto to deliver the cloud mobility our clients are looking for. Whether that's migrating workloads non-disruptively to and from any cloud, or maybe protecting workloads to multiple cloud targets simultaneously. Or what's really becoming more and more popular is the ability to burst workloads back and forth from public cloud environments like Azure and AWS. So to wrap up here, we strive to partner with our clients in achieving their desired recovery solution outcomes. We're going to go in depth during the planning phase and really help you think through and capture all the nuances of a detailed solution design. Many of these details are commonly overlooked until the end and cause issues resulting in manual work and reconfigurations. Things like user access to the DR environment can be assumed as straightforward, but often require more considerations around network architecture and routing. These are details that we hash out during the planning and implement to be orchestrated during failover. We'll also provide consulting services related to business impact analysis and overall business continuity planning, and even have options for business continuity DR seating and office space in our data centers if needed. We have a dedicated team of DR engineers that focus on the care and feeding of your DRaaS environments, validating the replication of your workloads, maintaining your runbook, and testing the solution regularly. Your team should be focused on the disaster and not bringing up the DR environment. And with that, I want to thank everyone again for your time today, and I'll pass it back for any questions you may have for us about Zerto and Tierepoint DRaaS.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. What a fascinating way to kick off the MegaCast here today. I want to thank both of you, Mike and Jeremiah, for that awesome presentation. We also have a special guest star that a lot of you will recognize from previous webinars. Anthony Dutra has joined us. Hi, Anthony.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Well, we've got a ton of questions coming in, and I do want to get into them. But before we do that, I just want to point out to all of you that we have up on the screen here another poll question for you. So this is where you get to be fun and interactive. Everybody shake off the dust if you've been settling in and listening and concentrating hard. Now you have to participate. So go ahead and click on a poll. Answer that for us there. What additional information would you like to get about the Zerto Tierepoint solution? So there's a lot of great options for you there. And I say this to you guys every week when we're in these megacasts. You know, it is difficult to find the right resources, and it's a lot of information out there. So make your life easy. Let Zerto and Tierepoint know this is the information that's going to help me the most. Click on that poll there. They'll put it right in your hands. It's just super simple. So go ahead and click on the poll. And while you're doing that, Mike, Jeremiah, Anthony, and I are going to dive into some questions. You guys ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, let's do it. Well, I want to start with one because I feel like this comes up quite a bit, and it's just sort of the basic question of, you know, the backup versus disaster recovery. And, you know, somebody asked here, if I have backup, do I need disaster recovery? If I have disaster recovery planning, do I need backup? Can you guys address that for our audience here?
Yeah, if
you guys
like,
want to
I
take
can
that?
definitely kick it off. Yeah, Jeremiah, for sure. So there is definitely I would say, a significant difference between disaster recovery scenario as well as a backup, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do have backup, expect the fact that you're going to recover to a point in time that last backup was, and it may be between hours and days. If you're looking to become operationally back online with a disaster recovery strategy, we're saying seconds to minutes before that disaster occurred, or to even Tierepoint's use cases with the cloud mobility, replicating that same app within that state to a different environment allows you to be much more dynamic to sort of combat that disaster compared to, hey, I got to pull from this old repository or old set of data. So again, just much more reactive, and you're able to be actually almost proactive with the disaster recovery solution compared to just a straight, simply just backup solution.
I love that.
Jeremiah, do you have anything to add on
reactive.
top of that? Yeah, I was going to say, especially being a DRaaS sort of provider.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you hit it really well. I mean, the primary pillars, right? I mean, we always recommend that you need both, if nothing else, just for simplicity of quick recovery. Normally from a local repository for backup, and then, like you said, with DRaaS, the ability to have a very small amount of data loss, really practically no data loss, with the type of replication that's happening, specifically with Zerto's DRaaS. So that's, yeah, I mean, you hit on the huge differentiators and why it's important to have both and why we recommend it.
Love that. Well, one of the things that you mentioned just towards the end there, Jeremiah, you were talking about the customization, the basically the one shop for everything you need, one-stop shop, and I think that's amazing, and I'm sure that really appeals to a lot of people out there. We did get some questions, kind of wondering, John's wondering about would there be specific offerings or recommendations for specific industry verticals. We had someone wondering, Nathan's wondering about recommended best practice in terms of the timing, the frequency of disaster recovery backup. So I'm sensing from the folks in the audience there that they are looking for maybe a little support and advice along the way. And how involved are you guys going to be able to offer? How much support can you offer in terms of those best practices and suggestions?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, here at Tierepoint, I mean, we really help our clients build business continuity solutions that ensure the resiliency of their organization. Our team can conduct business impact analysis, disaster recovery assessments, and really help our clients develop a BCDR strategy. Specifics around verticals and industries, absolutely. I mean, we have, with the experience, the over 1,000 active customers we have, the 14,000 plus virtual machines that we're currently protecting, that spans, a plethora of different industries. So we have, tribal knowledge and intelligence that we share with our clients to give them best practices specific to their specific vertical and industry, share, industry information that we've collected, and just really have that, that consultative approach to not only assist our clients specifically with their unique needs, but to also allow them to leverage the kind of the tribal knowledge and the experience that we've gathered over the thousands of installs that we have.
I love that. Well, guys, I have to say, I wish we could keep going here, but we are running really short on time. We got through a lot of awesome information here. We're probably going to have to wrap it up. But before you all step away, for somebody out there that is really excited, ready to jump in with Zerto and Tierepoint, what's their first step? How do they get started?
So first step from a Tierepoint perspective. Yeah. Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. I was going to say, definitely reach out to Tierepoint. I'm just going to do my quick plug that I always do. Check out the Zerto hands-on labs if you want to get very hands-on and see what Zerto is like. We have everything from Kubernetes to the cloud. But also, yes, reach out to Tierepoint themselves. Congratulations to them. 2022 Zerto MSPs of the Year. You guys provide a white glove service. That's amazing. So, Jeremiah, thank you guys for being, kind of amazing at what you do with us.
Absolutely. Appreciate it and appreciate the partnership again. So I'll just say real quickly, go to our website, tierepoint.com, and there's a contact us link up in the upper right-hand corner. So click on that and we will have a representative that you can either chat with or communicate with one of our consultants immediately. So please contact us. We have a lot of information that's on our website that you can learn about us. But we're also, we're very, happy and willing and want to collaborate with our clients. So please contact us.
I love that. Well, as always, it is a pleasure to chat with you guys. So thank you so much for being here. Big fans, and we got a couple of high fives and shout outs from the audience as well. So clearly, both Zerto and Tierepoint are our audience favorites, and I'm really glad you could be here to kick us off today. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, and also a big thank you to everyone who took a moment to fill out the poll on our screen here. I really appreciate that. Again, making your life easier, getting the info that you need. And as a reward for that, I am going to, I was going to do it anyways, but we'll say it's a reward for filling out the poll. Let's move on to our very first prize drawing. So up first, right now, we are going to give away both a $500 Amazon gift card and one of those very cool Samsung Galaxy Z flip phones. I feel like I'm switching between Z and Z. It's because I move across the Canadian-American border a lot. So I'm going to do it the whole time. Don't freak out. Just get used to it. Okay. So right now, we have a Samsung Galaxy Z flip phone 4 that we're going to give away. I'm going to remind you all that you must be present here at the live webinar to win. And let's go ahead and give away that $500 Amazon gift card. So that first $500 Amazon gift card is going to go to Patrick Michale of Ohio. Patrick McHale. McHale. It wasn't capitalized. Patrick McHale of Ohio, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. Wow, that's the weirdest way I've ever mispronounced a name. Congratulations to you, Patrick, on your $500 Amazon gift card. And hey, let's give away one of those Samsung Galaxy Z Flip Phone 4s. So that will go to Michael Spurlock of Montana. Michael Spurlock of Montana, you have won a Samsung phone. So congratulations to Michael on that new Samsung Galaxy, and to Patrick on your $500 Amazon gift card. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prizes after we wrap up the webinar today. Now, don't forget, there are still lots more chances to win a prize, plus that best question gift card from each session. I'm going to remind you that it does not matter if we read your question out, because I know we don't always have time to get to all of them, but as long as you get those questions in, you are entered to win. Okay, well, zipping right along in our MegaCast today, I'm very excited to introduce you to our next presenter in the MegaCast. We're going to hear from Robert West, the inside sales engineer at Rubric. Robert, I know that you have a ton of exciting things to cover with us today, so I'm going to step back, and the platform is all yours, my friend.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Robert West, and I'm a sales engineer for Rubric based out of Austin, Texas. Today, we'll be going over the Rubric Zero Trust Data Management Platform and how it enables customers to back up, secure, and access their data quickly, no matter whether that data resides on-prem, in the cloud, or SaaS-based such as M365. And we do so through a single console for management and monitoring. Due to the short amount of time we have today, there are features and capabilities that I won't have the time to showcase. However, for a deep dive demo of our capabilities around ransomware detection and remediation, sensitive data discovery, as well as orchestrating the automated disaster recovery, please feel free to reach out to your Rubric AE. For today's presentation, I'm going to run through a few slides to give you an overview on Rubric and then jump into a quick demo to give you a tour of the Rubric user interface. So here at Rubric, we started our journey by listening to our customers with why they needed help and where they needed it the most. And from those conversations with our customers, we heard that the backup systems being used over the years don't align with what the business needs are of tomorrow. IT is being asked to do more with less, but the backup tools in place require a ton of manual effort and babysitting. As the data grows, the environment becomes more complex to keep up with the requirements. And these legacy tools have outdated architectures. Not only do they result in slower and inconsistent recoveries over time, they significantly slow down the organization's ability to adjust, pivot, and stay competitive. All of this forces organizations to buy multiple backup products from multiple vendors for different workloads and use cases and spend a ton of money in the process. That doesn't include the cost to train people or hire someone to run those legacy systems. And these are typically large CapEx purchases that require frequent hardware refreshes and carry unpredictable costs into future years. This was and still is our why. Why did Rubric enter the market, and why are we working so hard to disrupt the status quo? This led us to focusing on three main areas to align with organizations as they go through their digital transformation, and similarly, where we believe we can help you and your team. The first is building a modern architecture with consistent innovation that leads to saving time, improving operational efficiency, and reducing costs associated with data protection. The second is providing a purpose-built platform for hybrid and multi-cloud environments to increase cloud mobility and improve business agility while taking advantage of the cloud's economies of scale. Lastly, but most importantly, is doing those two things with the utmost level of security. This includes meeting compliance across any industry regulation and ensuring your sensitive data is fully secure in the case of an unplanned event or disaster such as ransomware. This became our purpose and answer to how we're going to fix the problems that challenge organizations for so long. One of the reasons organizations are adopting Rubric is because data protection hasn't changed much over the last 20 to 30 years. It's complex architecture that's made up of different hardware and software components that require a lot of time to manage and maintain. We modernize by consolidating all of these components and eliminating the complexity that comes from manual processes such as backup jobs, schedules, windows, tasks, etc., with a single software fabric that scales out infinitely to provide data protection regardless of where that data sits. And organizations aren't meeting recovery objectives with their legacy solution that often requires multiple steps to recover, often resulting in delays and downtime. With Rubric, you can leverage Google-like search capabilities across the entire environment to quickly find and restore individual files from any point in time. Then you can mount the Rubric backup directly to the host to instantly recover that data in seconds. Whether recovering from a corrupt database or a ransomware attack, recovery is what Rubric was built for. We mentioned how legacy backup has gotten exponentially expensive over the years due to hardware upgrades, maintenance, and personal costs to maintain. Modern backup is less expensive. Rubric customers on average save 20 to 40% in total hard costs, and they recover up to 80 to 90% of their operational time when they move off their legacy systems. Most of the organizations we work with are still in the early phases of defining their cloud strategy and embarking on the cloud journey. There are typically three use cases where organizations have consistently asked and leveraged Rubric for help. The first is making it easy to archive data to the cloud and take advantage of their cheap and deep storage for your long-term retention and compliance. Rubric can help convert your on-prem application to cloud-ready workloads and accelerate the move away from on-prem infrastructure. Finally, Rubric can extend the same level of simplicity, security, and granularity as we do on-prem to the cloud-native workloads without pulling the data back on-prem, and instead by keeping it in your own cloud tenant. And all of this is visible in one console. So you have a single pane of glass to manage and monitor it all. We believe that Rubric is by far the most secure data protection solution in the market because of our unique approach to security. Every element of Rubric was and is designed with security in mind from day one. It starts with our end-to-end encryption, followed by our built-in granular reporting to know what is happening and when it's happening, to our role-based access controls and zero trust design, and last but not least, our immutability. Because data security is so important for organizations today, we're going to take a second to dive deeper on this topic. We explained why we're here and how we're building our strategy, but now we'll give you an overarching view of what we're doing to help organizations and IT teams, starting with modernization. We've implemented automation, AI, machine learning, hyperconvergence, and other new technologies to ensure simplicity, security, and availability of your data. We've partnered with the major cloud providers to seamlessly extend your data protection as you transition along your cloud journey. And we've built our platform with software flexibility and licensing portability to align to your cloud strategy, no matter if, when, or how it changes. And we've used our unique position as a data protection provider to unlock intelligence from your backup data, turning it into a business asset. This allows us to innovate further and create new tools to meet the needs of our customers. Today, we'll highlight two that are critical to every organization in cyber resiliency and data governance. Now let's dive into those details. As we mentioned earlier, when we ingest data, we index it, allowing us to unlock unique capabilities and tools to further enhance your data protection. One of those tools was built to help organizations practically defend against ransomware and speed up mitigation, whereas our immutability prevents ransomware from spreading. We can detect anomalies when they happen to discover files that have been modified or deleted or added because of ransomware. We can help you identify the blast radius and know what specific files were impacted. And in a matter of seconds, we can help you easily recover a clean, verified copy of that data with one click. Because of this, ransomware is no longer a concern for Rubric or our customers. Another tool we introduced in the last 18 months or so is aimed at helping organizations with data governance and classification. Because we have the index of metadata, we can scan it to look for sensitive data, typically hiding in unstructured file sets that's subject to regulatory compliance. We can run the data against industry standards such as PCI, PII, HIPAA, GDPR, etc., or custom analyzers and notify you of existing compliance violations and where exactly they sit within your subsystems. It's incredibly easy to turn on and get started in minutes without any services, training, or learning curves. And we can do all this without the need for additional infrastructure and consolidate yet another point solution for organizations. Rubric is using your backup data for classification to help support current and future data privacy regulations. And that concludes the slide component of our demo today. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the actual demo. So here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and I know we're short on time here, so I'm going to move this thing along here. This is Rubric CDM. It's Rubric Cloud Data Manager. It's the user interface that you'll be using to manage your on-prem Rubric environment. It is HTML5, so no Java, no Flash. Everything is clickable. Before I logged in, I verified through Okta my identity. We certainly recommend that you enable MFA. So in the event that your credentials were hijacked, if they didn't have your personal device, they couldn't log into the system. We integrate directly with Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, RSA, Duo, just to name a few. So anything that's SAML 2 compliant. So once you log in, you'll be presented with these various widgets here. And so you'll see tasks that have occurred over the last 24 hours, tasks that are in progress, Here on the right, we see some performance statistics. We're currently showing the last 24 hours. You can drill back down to the last 7 days. We also have a ton of reporting capabilities that I'll touch on here in a little bit. Here within this cluster, we have 7 live mounts, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. And we see the health of our cluster here. This is typically a point where I take a segue and go into the architecture of Rubric. So I'm going to click System here, just kind of dive into that with you. So as it pertains to on-prem at your primary location, a 2U hyperconverged appliance would be required. However, for your smaller remote locations, we can just deploy what we call Rubric Edge, which is a virtual edition on your existing infrastructure, tier off to the cloud, or replicate back to the primary and back up locally as well. But within the 2U hyperconverged appliance, we have 4 compute nodes. So you have your CPU, your RAM, your SSD, and your spinning disk. And then our proprietary immutable file system called Atlas pulls that local storage to those nodes to create a single data store. And we can scale out infinitely, both with performance and capacity. So if there is an unforeseen growth in data, or you acquire another company, you don't have to rip and replace our appliance. You can simply scale out by adding another 2U appliance, both with performance and capacity. Each appliance offers up about 30,000 IOPS. So where it's not NVMe, SSD, production storage, it certainly has enough performance to quickly recover your workloads. And from a connectivity standpoint, we support 25 gig, 10 gig base T, and 10 gig SMP+. So back to the main dashboard here. So we see that we currently have 8 healthy nodes, meaning we have 2 2U appliances within this cluster. We see some data reduction statistics here on the right, where we're at on capacity of this cluster. And then here in the center, and this is really where we differentiate ourselves from the majority of the competition out there, is we take an SLA policy-based approach to managing backups. We're under a single SLA, you define your RPO, or how frequently you want to take that backup, how long you want to hold on to that data for, so your retention, your archival location, and your replication target, should you have a secondary location, such as a DRaaS site, where you want to put another Rubric appliance and replicate to. You can then, as it pertains to VMware, you can assign that at the cluster host level, the VM level, the tag level, or the folder level to protect your environment. We do integrate directly with VMware, Hyper-V, as well as AHV Acropolis for Nutanix, and no agent is required since we integrate at the hypervisor level. Out of the box, we're presented with a gold, a silver, and a bronze SLA, but you know your environment way better than we do. So more times than not, customers customize and build their own. But essentially what we see is customers go from managing dozens, if not hundreds of these backup and replication jobs down to just maybe a handful or fewer of these SLAs. Here on the left, we can see which workloads we're protecting within this cluster. I point this section out because if a VM came online and wasn't being protected, it would populate under no SLA, and that'd be a good reminder to go back and protect that workload. From a connectivity standpoint, it's very simple and slightly redundant. A lot of that occurs through this gear icon here at the top. So we're going to click on the gear icon. We're going to sync with our vCenter. Click the addition sign. You put in your vCenter IP address, your credentials, click add. And then from then, we'll start to auto-discover your environment, and you'll see those virtual machines start to populate under virtual machines here on the left, vSphere VMs. Again, it's the same process with Hyper-V as well as AHV for Nutanix. From a replication standpoint, the gear icon, replication targets. We're going to click the addition sign here. We're going to put in the target IP address of that secondary Rubric appliance, your credentials, and click add. And then from an archival standpoint, gear icon, archival locations, the addition sign. We're going to select the target that we have, and it's any kind of cloud S3 compatible storage, whether it's Amazon, Azure, GCP, Wasabi, just to name a few. We also work with any NFS or object store on-prem for cheap, deep storage. So from an SLA perspective, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through how we create an SLA and then show you how we assign it. So we're going to click SLA domains here on the left, local domains, the addition sign. We're going to give that SLA domain name a name. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose this one at the top, 4-hour 30-day Azure. As it pertains to VMware environments, we do support continuous data protection and provide you very granular recoveries. But here on the left, we're looking at our RPOs. Here on the right, we're looking at our retention. So based on the naming convention here, I'm going to take a snapshot every 4 hours. Let's say I hang on to that for 2 days. Let's say a daily for 30 days, a monthly for 12 months, and then let's say a yearly for 2 years. And again, this is completely customizable based on your requirements. You can then dictate when that first full backup occurs. Again, we're a first time full, forever incremental, and we're constantly rebuilding that backup chain on the back end to provide you with the synthetic full. So typically customers will go in here and dictate when that first full backup occurs. And then since the incremental backups are light lift, we'll let Rubric do our thing on the back end and load balance those backup jobs across your environment. Then click next. Earlier, we enabled archiving through the gear icon here. So I'm going to select archiving, select the target that we created, and then I'm going to dictate how long that data sits on the appliance before we tier it off to the cloud of your choosing, in this case, Azure. We can also enable instant archive, which means after that first full backup, we're going to send that dedupe and compressed data back over to the cloud, to your archival location, to give you 2 good copies of your data. From a replication standpoint, we're going to enable replication. We're going to select the target that we defined earlier under the gear icon, and then we're going to dictate how long that data sits at that secondary site before aging out. Click next. If everything looks good, you'd click create, and you would have created your very first SLA. This is a demo environment. We have a ton of these. We've been instructed not to create any more. So from an SLA assignment standpoint, if we go here to virtual machines, we auto-discovered your VMware environment or Hyper-V environment or a Nutanix environment. You come in here at the cluster or host level, select that cluster, click Manage Protection. If you already created the SLA, you can select it from the drop-down here. You can start from scratch, just like the process I walked you through. But essentially, any SLA that comes online, any workload that comes online will inherit that SLA. And then you can come in here at the VM level, select your more mission-critical workloads, and assign a more aggressive SLA that will override that blanket SLA, if you will. And that's really it. That's how you protect your entire environment. Really quickly, I know we're coming up on time here. I'm going to show you how our various recovery options. So as it pertains to VMware, I'm going to go ahead and search for my VM here. Once I select the VM, I'm going to be presented with a calendar view here on the right once it populates. Bear with me for a second. This is a demo environment. Calendar view here on the right, evergreen dot represents a recover point or multiple recover points based on the SLA that's assigned here. So evergreen dot represents 4 recover points. We see the latest snapshot, oldest snapshot, next scheduled snapshot, and activities here at the bottom. So if I go to yesterday and I want to recover, I have various options, right? I can do a live mount, which is a NFS point-in-time recovery spinning up from the actual Rubric appliance and mounted to the server you're choosing. Good use cases for this is test dev. Then we also have instant recovery, which is a disruptive process. So this is a worst-case scenario. Production storage is down. We're going to spin up that point-in-time copy from the Rubric appliance and leverage Rubric as the production storage for hopefully a short amount of time. Once your production storage is back online, you can just storage vMotion that data over. And then we also, for VMware, have what we call in-place recovery, where we power down the VM in production. We send over the change block data based on the point in time that you select, and then power that VM back up into production. And we stated earlier, the way we index the metadata, we give you Google-like search functionality. So I can search for a specific file that's located on this VM by typing in the name here. And then when I go to recover, I have the ability to download in place, restore, export to another location. If you don't know the name of the VM, you can search, click the ellipses here, recover files, and traverse the folder hierarchy to locate that VM. Lastly, I want to show you our capabilities as it pertains to SQL. So with SQL, we can do some pretty cool stuff. We can do point-in-time recovery, right? It doesn't require that our 15 meg agent sit on the SQL Server host. And that way we can back up not only the database, but also the transaction logs to get you that point-in-time recovery. So if I select my AdventureWorks database here at the top, you'll see the workflow is the same, right? We're going to still have that calendar view here on the right. And then this pane on the left showing us the SLA that's assigned, latest recover point, oldest recover point, and activities here at the bottom. So if I go to recover from yesterday, you'll see that I'm presented with this point in time slide here, right, in this toggle bar. So every green dot represents the snapshots that we are taking of the database, right? Based on this SLA that's been assigned to it. And then these green lines here represent the transaction logs. So I can essentially go back to 4:48 in the morning in 16 seconds. We'll look at that last snapshot and then we'll apply those transaction logs to get you to that point in time recovery. And our recovery options for that are the live mount, which I just discussed with the vSphere VMs, right? That's a SMB 3-share point in time copy from the Rubric appliance to the SQL Server host of your choosing. A good use case there is test dev, or if you want to copy and paste it, or if the table or row is deleted in production, use whatever management studio you're leveraging to manage your SQL environment, copy and paste that data back on over to production, and then simply unmount by this tab here on the left, live mount. You would click an ellipses, click unmount. We would do all the garbage collection on the back end for you. We also have that instant recovery where you can leverage Rubric as the primary storage for a short amount of time, and then just storage view motion that data back over once production is back up and running. Last thing I wanted to show everyone here, sorry, I'm talking fast. I'm trying to meet this time deadline here. If we go to reports gallery, you can see we have a ton of reporting capabilities, right? I'm not going to, obviously, I don't have the time to go through them all, right? But some are SQL specific. So we'll just choose this one, SLA compliance summary here at the top. And I just want to point out that you have the ability to send this report to yourself or someone else now. You can download the CSV, or you can schedule this report or any other report to be sent to you on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and you can dictate the time that it's sent to you as well. So that concludes my demo, the overview of the Zero Trust Rubric data management platform. I hope you found it informative. If you have any additional questions or want to see a deep dive demo or have discussions with a sales engineer, please reach out to your Rubric AE. They'd be happy to facilitate and set up that call. Thanks for your time today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Robert, for that awesome presentation. Lots of great info. Now, you can all see that I put up a poll question for you. We would love to get your feedback on any additional resources that you would like to explore from Rubric. Again, this feedback is so valuable. It really helps both Actual Tech Media and Rubric know what information is useful to you and make sure that we're getting you the right content at the right time, and also allows Rubric to make sure that they're handing you the information that you need at the right time in your own research. So let us know what follow-up you would like to get from Rubric. I can see a lot of really wonderful questions coming in, which I love. That's so exciting. And I wish we had a little bit more time to dig into them. But unfortunately, we are going to have to keep cruising right along. But don't worry, because Robert and the Rubric team will follow up with you after the webinar today. Now, if you do want to learn a little bit more right away, click on into that handouts tab. You can download the white paper, A Definitive Guide to Zero Trust Data Security from Rubric. Really interesting information. So download that now and save for later. And hey, while you're answering that poll, while you're downloading that handout, I do have some good news. It is already time for our next grand prize giveaway. So a quick reminder that you do need to be present here in the webinar in order to win. And let's start with one of those $500 Amazon gift cards. So a $500 Amazon gift card going here to Brett Easley of Kansas. Brett Easley of Kansas. And our next winner of a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4 is going to Bill Huang of Maryland. Bill Huang of Maryland. So congratulations to Brett on your gift card, and congrats to Bill on your new Samsung. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after the webinar. Don't forget, there's still lots more chances to win a prize today, plus that best question card from each session. So even if we don't get to your question in the live session, there is still a chance that you will win that. So stay tuned for that. But for now, let's keep zipping right along in our megacast here. I am so excited to introduce you all to our next presenter, Andy Fernandez, Director of Product Marketing at Haiku. Andy, I always enjoy chatting with you and hearing about all the fun things that are happening at Haiku. So let's get right into it. Andy, the platform is all yours.
Thanks for the warm welcome, Jess. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here. My name is Andy Fernandez. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Haiku. We're going to talk a lot about data protection today, not just individual backup, not just disaster recovery migrations, but we're really going to talk about IT, cyber resilience, how to be able to protect your applications, what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked, and then we're really going to take a look at what are the modern challenges that you all face, that we all face when it comes to protecting applications today. What's the selection criteria that we should have when we're looking at the right partner, the right service, the right platform that we can trust with our critical data, and how Haiku Protege is able to deliver on our mission. and on our ability to protect your critical applications. So with that, let's get right to talking about the scenarios that we all face today. Before we get into the actual challenges of protecting data, we have to look at why are we supposed to be protecting data? Well, the reason is downtime and data loss are permanent features that are in this world. And as long as there are people, we live on this earth, there will be a reason to be able to protect that data, right? Whether it's from a backup scenario or a DR scenario, it doesn't matter. The most critical area, one of the biggest threats that we're all facing is ransomware. Not only are the attacks growing in severity, but they're also growing in volume. They're becoming much more sophisticated and even targeting backups, targeting DR software, and they are becoming more successful. The cost of ransoms are rising. The cost of the downtime, the length of the downtime from ransoms or from cybersecurity attacks are increasing. And that's something that is not going to go away. And that's something that we have to be prepared for, because we know that it's not a matter of if, but when there is a ransomware attack. The next area is something that we've all dealt with forever, right? Which is the human error part. Accidental deletions. There are logical errors, hardware failures, corruptions, and even outages. But most importantly, across all of these scenarios, these things happen on premise, they happen in the cloud, they happen to your virtualized applications, they can happen to your SaaS applications, and they can even happen to your containerized applications. So the real lesson that we've all learned collectively is that data protection is critical. It doesn't matter where you're hosting this data, what infrastructure these applications are running, something can happen, and we have to be ready as an organization to be able to recover, but not just recover, but recover quickly and eliminate downtime to avoid the financial and the productivity impact that includes as well. Now, that is the specific challenges around use cases that happen where we need to be able to recover, specific scenarios that organizations, whether they are fully on-prem to fully running production in the cloud, are facing. But here comes kind of a second layer of challenges, which is what are the challenges that people face when they're actually trying to protect their data, regardless of if they have an on-prem, hybrid, or multi-cloud strategy. Now, think about it. Think about where your organization was, or in your previous roles as an IT manager, as a system administrator, director, VP of IT. In the past, you had the castle. And in the castle, everything was centrally managed, primary data center. Maybe you had a secondary site for DR. But ultimately, you were able to centrally manage everything, hardware, software, from one place. But things have changed. We've seen hyper growth of data, but not only has the data increased, but so is the locations of that data, where that is running. The growth and the explosion of cloud adoption means that you probably have applications that are running in multiple places. And that's not even counting your SaaS applications like Microsoft 365. What that's created is a ton of data silos for organizations, meaning you have now a massive threat landscape with critical data running in different places, with applications that are as critical in different places, and you don't have a single place to be able to manage, to be able to protect, to be able to assess your risk. And that creates a lot of challenges, not only in the rising amount of solutions that you need to protect and manage, but also the challenges that brings from a cybersecurity perspective, from a resilience perspective. Now, that's just multiple interfaces, disparate data sets, disparate applications running in different infrastructure. And that's a main challenge that we all face, regardless of the size of the company, data silo sprawl. But the other one is how much time you're spending on simply protecting, recovering, and managing the solutions itself that you're using to protect this data, right? Everything that we do within data protection is to keep the lights on, to make sure that your applications are running, to make sure that your data is recoverable, that we're not in non-compliance, that we're not facing any regulatory issues, that if a ransomware attack happens, we are able to recover if our prevention didn't work. But ultimately, that's still keeping the lights on. That's not producing revenue. That's not producing new applications, new development that grows businesses. So think about how much time we're spending on data protection just to keep the lights on, right? You have a hypergrowth of data. You have this entire sprawl of important data across your organization, across the world. But you're also struggling to keep the lights on from a resource perspective, time, resource, and labor that is being spent. And then ultimately, when you add the element of hybrid and multi-cloud environments, it only adds to the complexity, not just sprawl, not just adding more resources to be able to protect data, but now you have applications that are entirely different, that have different requirements, different solution needs to be able to protect them effectively. Your strategy of before, where you had virtual applications running on premises, is very different when you're actually trying to protect your containerized environment, when you're protecting your instances that are native in AWS, Azure, GCP, and even Microsoft 365. So there are a lot of challenges, and they can be essentially summarized by hypergrowth of data. It's everywhere. It's difficult to retain in one place and manage and visualize. I'm spending a lot of time just making sure that I'm able to protect this data. And I'm also spending a lot of time and having difficulty with doing so in a hybrid or multi-cloud environment. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit more about that data silo sprawl from on-premises into the cloud. And this is specifically sprawl when it comes to the interfaces that you're dealing with from a data protection perspective. So let's rewind. Let's go back 15, 20 years where you had, your vCenter environment, you had a primary data center, and you had to make sure that the data that you kept on there, the applications that you kept on there were backed up. So you brought your traditional, vSphere backup, being able to use these types of solutions. We know who they are. These are legacy backup solutions that were excellent for on-prem. But then you realize that it wasn't just about having backup and being able to recover data, but it's also making sure that you were able to fail over, that you were able to perform a DR operation. So what happens? Well, you then had to bring in a secondary data center, right? This is a redundant site. And you also had to bring in a solution that could help you fail over that data. In the past, a lot of the use was, near synchronous, asynchronous replication. Sometimes it was storage-based, sometimes it was snapshot-based, but you were essentially replicating to a secondary site while copying data on your primary site to make sure that that was available. So you've already now have two different solutions, but very different use cases at the time for data protection. But then you have been asked to also maybe migrate to the public cloud. Let's take something like AWS, Azure, or GCP, or even build native applications using instances in the cloud. So then you have to bring in, okay, I need a tool or a solution to be able to migrate to the cloud. And then you also need to be able to have a solution that allows you to protect your native instances in the cloud. A lot of organizations would use your traditional AWS backup, Azure backup, and what GCP offers as well. And this just now means that there's yet another interface, yet another different solution service that I have to learn, maintain, and manage in order to protect and move my data in the cloud. And then add the sprawl that you get from having to back up your SaaS applications. For example, Microsoft 365. Now, when you think about it, where we stand today, at a minimum, you're dealing with multiple interfaces for very different use cases, but they're all related within data protection. Being able to protect applications on-prem, being able to fail over your applications on-prem to another site or to the public cloud, being able to move or protect your native instances in the cloud, but also being able to protect your SaaS applications like Microsoft 365. This brings in a lot of time, resource, and challenges just to keep the lights on. Now, think about it. Think about the life cycle, the resources that it takes just for one. Let's take your on-prem backup, right? Being able to protect your virtual machines on-premise. Think of everything that you have to do there. One, you have to perform a sizing planning exercise. Just how much storage is this going to require? How much is my protection scope going to grow? And how do I plan usually a CapEx model around my primary data center? Then you have to go through installation and deployment, whether it's an agent-based technology or whether it is a hardware appliance that you're using. You have to go through a very lengthy from POC to installation, configuration, and deployment. That takes weeks, sometimes months, depending on the complexity of your environment. And then is the management, making sure that you're maintaining this, making sure that it's configured correctly, that you're patching, that you're upgrading. And then ultimately, every couple of years comes your renewal. Do I have to protect more VMs? Do I have to find a different solution that meets my needs from an RPO or an RTO perspective? Now, that's just all the activities around something like on-prem backup. Now, imagine having to perform this. Imagine having to learn this and go through these cycles for your backup on-prem, for your DR on-prem, for your migration solution, for your cloud backup, for your cloud disaster recovery, for your SaaS backup, for Microsoft 365. This takes too much time from your organization, takes too much time, resource costs, and labor from IT, where you could be using this for revenue conducive activities. Now, what does that mean? We're spending a lot of time today talking about the challenges, but it's important that we're aware of them. So how do you find the right data protection solution for all of your workloads? How do you pick a platform that's going to work with you, but you're not sacrificing performance as well, right? Well, first and foremost, this is this is table stakes. When you are protecting workloads, whether it's on-prem, whether it's cloud native, whether it's SaaS, it needs to be a purpose-built protection. You should not be using agents or plugins. This is only adding to the layers of complexity. You have to make sure that you are protecting your applications the way they're meant to be protected. And as you switch or transition even more into a hybrid and multi-cloud strategy, you're doing so because you're moving from a CapEx model to an OpEx model. So it's very important that your data protection solutions are also supporting an OpEx model. So it's true SaaS, that you're paying for exactly what you're protecting, and that everything is managed for you on the back end, eliminating a lot of those resources. As I mentioned, you need to be able to also make sure this is simple, that you're spending a minimal amount of time on this, and that it is easy for anyone in your IT organization to perform these operations. It needs to be able to support your hybrid and multi-cloud strategy, and it needs to be self-service. You're having folks who are new to data protection, for example, DevOps, SRE, application owners, cloud architects, who might end up being responsible for some of their workloads. So you need to have a self-service model, multi-tenancy, and a solution that is easy to do so. And ultimately, as I mentioned, ransomware is one of the largest threats that every organization faces from a downtime and data loss perspective. So you have to build with security first in mind, making sure that you understand, will my data protection software be encrypted? How is data, or will it be attacked? How are we encrypting data? Is there single sign-on? Is there MFA? Am I able to have immutable copies of data? These things are extremely important. So, we consider these key guidelines for selecting your data protection platform of the future. So with that in mind, I want to spend a couple minutes talking about how Haiku Protege is able to do this with multi-cloud data protection. So just a quick thing for those of you who are new to Haiku, we are headquartered in Boston, and we have partnerships with leading cloud and server vendors. We have top-rated NPS product and support. Data protection is in our DNA. We leverage experience developing industry-leading products to create an innovative platform. This is something that we've all been doing, our engineer organizations have been doing for their entire lives, making sure that we are delivering the best data protection experience. One of the foundational elements of what makes Haiku special is to make sure that we use purpose-built protection for whatever it is that you pick, whether you want to be on-prem or you want to be in the multi-cloud, that you're protecting as these applications are meant to protecting, but without sacrificing simplicity, right? There is no need for agents, no need for plugins, but you want to make sure that you are having a simple interface to manage. And ultimately, we have a worldwide customer base, over 3,200 customers in over 75 countries. Here are just some of the logos, some of the customers who we call wearing purple, who know and trust Haiku with protecting their critical data. So let's talk a little bit about the number one challenge, data silo sprawl. One of the most important things here is most of you right now are using multiple interfaces to be able to protect different workloads. One of the ways that Haiku is able to radically simplify your data protection experience is giving you one single interface to be able to protect, manage, recover, and migrate your data. Whether it's on-premise Nutanix, VMware, or you're protecting public cloud workloads like Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, or even SaaS workloads like Office 365. With Haiku Protege, you have one unified management experience. You have consistent application protection and recovery across all operations, DR, backup, and migrations. But most importantly, you're using purpose-built backup as a service, purpose-built protection for each of these workloads that you're using as well. Now, let's talk about a few things, especially when we look at that selection criteria, because today is about simplifying streamlining the way that you protect and recover your applications. One of the most critical areas of what Haiku is able to deliver is a zero deployment, zero maintenance, zero configuration experience. We talked about one of the key guidelines being SaaS, not only from an operational financial perspective of I only want to pay for the capacity or the applications that I'm protecting, but you also want to make sure that you're not going through these extremely lengthy sizing exercises, that you're not spending weeks understanding how to effectively configure and deploy some type of software. With Haiku, you subscribe. You aren't doing any maintenance. You're not doing any config. You're not even doing any upgrade. All of that is being done on the back end. So it's delivering a true data protection as a service solution, really offloading a lot of the labor, resources, and costs associated with managing data protection, especially when it comes to the public cloud. When you are protecting public cloud workloads, whether that's to the cloud or in the cloud, you should not be performing lengthy infrastructure planning and sizing. You should be leveraging the elasticity and the scale of the public cloud. That's exactly what Haiku Protege does. When you are protecting data in AWS, in Google, in Azure, not only are you using that storage, those native snapshots, but you're also leveraging the elastic scale that they provide. And not only is it about scale, but also making sure that it is designed for cost savings with optimal utilization, making sure that there's a cloud smart design and that it's balanced for any region. And I've harped on this a lot because it's so important. You should not be protecting your workloads using agents and plugins. They sacrifice performance, they add complexity, and you are not protecting the applications the way they should be protected consistently and simply. And so with Haiku Protege, you're not using any agents. Our engineering team has taken the time, resources, and effort to build a protection service for your platform as it was meant to be built. Agentless snapshot-based backups of your VMs using your native snapshots in the public cloud as well. That way you don't have a performance penalty. You're able to increase your RPO, but you're also able to streamline your management. And as we mentioned, this is purpose-built for the cloud and on premises. If you have a VMware environment, if you have a Nutanix environment, and you're looking to go to Azure, GCP, AWS, and you're looking to manage all of them, you can still retain purpose-built support, but a unified management and using the native services that the cloud offers. And as I mentioned as well, a single pane of glass for all these workloads. I know that's a buzzword, and I know that everyone mentions it, but this is truly one single interface where you're able to see all of your VMs, your instances, and your protected applications in one place where you can perform these operations without having to have 8 different screens just to know where your data is. It's about a unified backup and recovery solution for the public cloud and for on-premises. And because of this vision that we've had, not only around how do we bring radical simplicity to the everyday management of your data protection operations, but also the ability to say, hey, we're not going to build this with agents. We're going to be able to protect things the way that they're doing so without sacrificing performance. And because of that, because of this vision that we have for the future, is why we were recognized as a visionary in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for enterprise backup and recovery. And this is just the start. It's about making sure that whether you're fully on-premise for specific requirements you need to do so, or your hybrid cloud strategy, or maybe you're even already evaluating a multi-cloud strategy and you are fully running production in the cloud. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey. Haiku is able to deliver protection, recovery, management, and migrations of those critical applications. So whatever infrastructure that you need. And so with that, I think we can sit here and talk about it all day, but the best thing that you can do is to try it for yourself. We will have a link in the chat, but you can also see the link here. And you go in there and just select one of the platforms that you're looking to protect. Maybe you want to protect VMware or Nutanix, or you want to protect AWS. You can go get your hands on the product and you're able to see the simplicity for yourself. So with that, I want to thank you all for your time. And I think we might have a little bit of time for some questions.
We absolutely do. Thank you so much, Andy, for that awesome presentation. It's something that I just love about Haiku is that emphasis on simplicity without sacrificing security. It's a hard balance, and you guys really do that well.
Thank you.
Well, Andy, we have a ton of great questions coming in already, and I want to make sure that we can get to as many of those as we can. So are you ready to jump in?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do this. So you were talking a little bit about this, the on-prem and cloud. We do have a question here wondering if Haiku is software only, or are there potentially hardware appliances that would be required for an on-premises situation?
Yeah, it's a great question because you see a lot of marketing out there of organizations claiming to be software as a service, but they're still selling a box. And with Haiku, there is no box. This is software agentless that you're using that has a light footprint that you're able to use to protect on-prem and public cloud. There is no appliance and there is no management that comes in with these hardware appliances that you see. We are meant to be simple and agile, and that only comes from being software as a service.
Oh, yeah, simple and agile. Those are important these days. How about Kubernetes? We have a question here. Does Haiku protect Kubernetes applications?
Yeah, if you're running your environment and you're using GKE, you're able to use Haiku Protege to be able to protect your containerized applications natively.
Perfect. Quick and easy answer on that one. Yes. Okay. Well, it's always important to think about if you're moving things around. So, question here: does Haiku support migrations to the cloud?
Yeah, absolutely. So, whether you're looking to go to the cloud, across the cloud, with Haiku Protege, you're able to do so. And maybe you're taking baby steps into the cloud. Maybe you want to be able to simply back up to cloud storage, or maybe use the cloud as a DR target site. You're able to do so, and not having to get an additional solution, an additional interface, just to perform maybe a one-time migration or DR operations. We converge that experience for you in one unified single software experience.
I love that, because we have a lot of people out there that are at different places in their cloud journey. So it sounds like wherever you're at, this solution is going to work for you. Well, Andy, I have to say, I wish we could keep going because we do have a lot more questions here, but we are running a bit short on time. So we're going to have to wrap soon. Before you head out, you mentioned maybe one potential next step. If somebody is really excited and ready to get started with Haiku, they want to learn more, which I'm sure everyone out there is. What do you recommend as that first step? What do they do?
I say first step is get your hands on the product. Try it yourself. Take a look at it. Go to our trial. Select what you want to protect and go from there. We have a ton of incredible assets. We'll actually be including one here in the platform as well. But I'd say priority is to get your hands on the product and try it for free.
Totally agree. There's no better way to find out if a solution is going to work for you than to actually get in and play with it. So love that answer. And that's a great next step for everybody. Andy, thank you so much for an amazing presentation. As always, it's so great to see you again. And thanks for sticking around to answer some audience questions today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm just hitting send on this link here that Andy sent my way. There we go. Okay, so there's a link in the chat. That was the one that Andy mentioned. I just saw a message from Alan who's telling me that Haiku is in Austin and the Formula One race is coming up in Austin. Alan, thank you for remembering that I am a huge Formula One fan. Yes, I would very much like to get tickets to that. Andy, I know you've probably signed off the platform by now, but if you hear this, please send me tickets to the Formula One race in Austin. I'll come hang out at Haiku and go watch some cool racing. All right, well, we are going to move it right along in the webinar. If you look up at your screen right now, you can see another one of those exciting polls. We want to know what additional information you would like to get about the Haiku solution. Now, somebody pointed out that sounds like poetry. Yes, it does, and I do welcome all haikus in the chat. So if you're feeling particularly creative today, please feel free to send us a haiku. Mark is sending out a high five to you, Andy, telling you did a great job. I would have to agree. What a great presentation. And just a great way to move along in our megacast here. If you are looking to get more information right away, please do head to the Handouts tab, and you can download the ebook, Implementing BaaS into Your Hybrid Cloud Data Strategy, 10 Key Factors to Consider. Now, I have a question for the audience out there because I have heard BaaS and BaaS. Do you guys say it with a little more Z, a little more twist on it, or do you say BaaS, like the fish? So implementing BaaS or BaaS into your hybrid cloud data strategy, 10 key factors to consider. Let me know how you say it. Well, anyways, that's a great and engaging ebook. I hope you'll check it out. Definitely worth the read. And while you are letting me know how to pronounce Baz or Baz, and while you are filling out the poll, and while you are downloading that ebook, I'm going to go ahead and give away another prize. So we are looking at a $500 Amazon gift card, and then, oh yeah, let's give away another Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. Why is that so hard for me to say today? Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. Say that 7 times fast, guys. All right, well, first let's start with a $500 Amazon gift card. I'm going to remind you that you do need to be present here at the live webinar in order to win. So hopefully you're here, you're present, and if your name is Helen Alexander of North Carolina, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. Helen Alexander of North Carolina. We will be in touch with you about claiming that $500 Amazon gift card. Our next winner of the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. Ooh, that time I nailed it. That one is going to Melissa Rose of Maryland. Melissa Rose of Maryland, congratulations on your new Samsung. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prizes after the webinar. And don't forget that there's still lots more chances to win a prize today, plus that best question gift card from each session. And even if we didn't get to your question in the live session, you are still entered to win. So keep those questions coming in to us here. All right, well, let's move our presentations along here because, as you can see, we have a very exciting next presentation. I'm so happy to introduce our next expert presenter in today's MegaCast. We're going to chat with Zach Bringman, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Metallic, a Commvault venture. Zach, thank you so much for being here with us on the MegaCast. I know you've got some great info to dig into, so I'm going to hand the mic right on over to you.
Hi all, Zach Brigman, Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Metallic, a Commvault venture. Really excited to be on our call today talking about cyber deception, specifically its role in modern data protection as it relates to the hot button topic of ransomware and cybersecurity protection. Now, to start the conversation here today, we really start on how the lines between data protection and data security really are effectively blurring. As ransomware surges and continues to move in the wrong direction, there are new data protection imperatives that are being created and really challenging IT in new ways. And it's evident by how IT is thinking about protecting their data. When speaking with IT directors, there's no surprise here that there's been a chief concern, and there's still a chief concern around recovering post-attack, with 72% saying they're focusing on recovering data post-attack. But what's new and what's coming into the fold is the motive for the IT directors to really focus on protecting their data from other data threats, be it data damage or data loss. And I'm really acknowledging that, hey, I might not have the adequate tool set I need to properly protect my data from the new waves of threats universally across my environments. And this is really why we're being challenged to think about data protection and data security as they come together differently. Now, it's important to pay mind to what the driving force is behind this new way of thinking, and it's ransomware, specifically the emergence of double and triple extortion attempts. What we're finding is not only ransomware sophisticated, but it's targeting businesses in new and unique ways. Now, a few short years ago, it really revolved around data encryption. That was the end game. If I could encrypt your data, if I could deny you access to your data, effectively a business would be forced to comply with and potentially pay a ransom, right? More and more companies understood this. They leverage proven backup solutions like what Commvault and Metallic offers to protect their data. And it gives businesses this requisite tool set to be able to recover data from an encrypted state and get their business back online and avoid that costly downtime, avoid that costly ransomware demand. Now, bad actors are smart, as we know. Unfortunately, they understood this and they really evolved their approach. They've begun targeting businesses and organizations in different ways. 83%, in fact, the norm of ransomware attacks involves some form of data leakage, exfiltration, theft, destruction, if they can. And what this really means is that bad actors are looking to do new things with your data, potentially leak it to the public, exfiltrate it and sell it to the dark web. If they can, and you don't have backups in place, steal it or destroy it outright, right? They're moving beyond just encryption and focusing on new ways to monetize your data. And that's really causing us to think about what we do to safeguard our data from these advanced threats, not just recover it. And to make things even more challenging, the rate of attacks, they're accelerating. Now, security experts really define a critical moment as that transition from initial discovery to lateral movement. That's a key moment in the attack chain. And once that lateral movement is really achieved, the odds begin to favor the attacker. And it makes it increasingly harder for the business to stop an attack once it reached this state. How long does it take to achieve? This is also moving in the wrong direction, much shorter. It could be less than 2 hours for some sophisticated attacks to achieve this breakout metric. And what this means is that obviously not only have motives attackers, but what attackers are looking to do with your data, the window in order for the business to be able to respond is shortening. And it's making it even more critical for early warning being a critical element of how businesses think about safeguarding their data. And this is really where cyber deception comes in. It really gives businesses the ability to surface threats sooner, right as attacks happen in production environments, to give the best possible ability to respond and safeguard data sooner, and not just focus and rely on recoverability. Now, we'll focus here around a really exciting innovation from Metallic ThreatWise, our new and unique differentiated approach to protecting data in production environments, but specifically moving the baton forward, not focusing on data protection solely as your last line of defense, but really starting it before you're compromised, starting it before there's a need to recover. Now, one thing's certain, right? When we look at deception technology, 100% of the environment without deception technology is real. So put a different way, if an attacker gets into your environment, 100% of what they can touch with, what they can interact with, what they can tamper with, it's a real resource. Now, with deception, however, we augment that attack surface unbeknownst to the attacker, right? So this is kind of how Metallic ThreatWise works and how we do it. We leveraged patented cyber deception technology to drop what we call threat sensors around valuable assets. Think about the threat sensors as tripwires, right? We cover and blanket the surface area in production environments with these authentic lookalike decoys. And what these decoys do, what these threat sensors do, is really precisely simulate real resources. They're indistinguishable to attackers. They can mimic anything, think routers, printers, switches, databases, servers, you name it. If it has an IP address, we effectively can replicate it. But when engaged with, it delivers a high fidelity warning signals to really key business stakeholders and security systems to let someone know the moment an attack happens. So as an attack starts, whether that be through elevating privileges or discovering or running reconnaissance, lateral movement, the moment a false resource, one of these tripwires, is touched, the business is effectively alerted into the bad actors' locations, techniques, and methods, right? And what makes ThreatWise really different is its design. So it's not what we would think of as conventional honeypot technology. It's not a honeypot at all. A honeypot is really labor intensive. They can be costly, but they require time to spin up, can be complex, and they're really designed for a different purpose. They're designed to learn from an attacker and its techniques. ThreatWise is designed really to be lightweight, highly configurable, and really engage a bad actor as they start to propagate their attack. All of the threat sensors within Metallic are highly authentic, and they're only visible to bad actors, which means they cannot be touched, tampered with by a legitimate user or system. And that means the importance is that when they are touched, when they are interacted with, you get a high fidelity alert notification with certainty that you know it's a threat, right? And this minimizes the fatigue or the false positives that may come with conventional security technology. And while we are already backing up and protecting your data, these threat sensors, these tripwires, are intelligently placed, working really from the inside out. So we know where the crown jewels are, we're protecting them today, but essentially we aren't just blindlessly threat hunting. These are strategically, intelligently deployed to configure for maximum surface coverage in a way that protects your data better. And all this really builds upon our industry-leading backup and security posture. So with Metallic, all backup data is stored in a immutable format. It's isolated and air-gapped from source environments. There's zero trust access controls, authentication controls really wrapped around to prevent unwanted and unwarranted access. We have anomaly detection and data insights and user behavior analysis that really constantly scans and evaluates and monitors behaviors and data sets for specific activity. and it's all built on leading tech. We're the only vendor in our space to achieve FedRAMP High status, meeting the highest security stature recognized by the US government. And now we're adding this deception capability to bring things into the production environment. It really culminates in Commvault's vision of delivering end-to-end data protection and the ability to spot and surface threats early in production environments close to the source to stop data threats before a business is compromised, while delivering that best-in-class security and recoverability for data for that unrivaled business continuity, and really doing it comprehensively across the entire data state for uniform protection wherever your data lives. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you all for your time, and I'd like to open up the floor for any additional questions.
Yeah, that's awesome, because we definitely have some great questions coming in. Zach, thank you so much for that walkthrough. That was a really fascinating exploration, and I'm excited to dig into some of these questions we have coming in. Before we jump into those, I do want to point out that we have that poll question up on the screen here. So we want to know what additional information you would like about the Metallic solution. So again, make your life easy. Let Metallic know. I know that you've got questions. I know that you have things that you want to explore and that you want to hear more about. So instead of having to go out and hunt for them yourselves, click one little button there and Metallic will put it in your hands or your email inbox and make sure that you have that. So fill that out now. Zach, are you ready to jump into some of these questions here?
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's start with this one here from Rob, because you were just talking about the honeypot, and so he's wondering about the honeypot approach. And you said very, specifically there, these are not the same things. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And with this technology, we do have honeypot capabilities, but what the element that we're speaking about today, these highly interactive threat sensors, it's very different from a honeypot. When you think of a honeypot, you think of full systems, right? They're typically labor intensive, they're complex to spin up, they take a lot of resources, and they're really built around a way to gather insight and intelligence from an attacker, right? The purpose of the threat sensors within Metallic is to have these lightweight, agile decoys in your environment that the moment they're touched, it signals a high fidelity alert. So it's more so around engaging with these lightweight, highly authentic decoys, much less kind of behind the scenes gathering the intelligence from an attacker. And I think the key difference is not only how it engages an attacker to give a high fidelity alert, but also the fact that these are really rapidly deployable, where they're not time and resource intensive.
Man, I have to say, the literary nerd in me geeks out when we get to use words like honeypot and high fidelity alerts. I love it. I feel like I'm in a spy novel. Let's get to this question from Kent. How do the sensors handle DDoS situations?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The best way to think about it, there's a multiple different attack methods, right? The best way to think about it is, as an attacker hops into your system, there's a number of things that have to be done. Reconnaissance, discovery, so on and so forth. This technology essentially is applied as an attacker breaches your network, right, and is looking to propagate an attack. So in terms of whether that's a malicious insider or an external threat, in order to propagate those attacks, essentially these threat sensors are placed along the path to do some key initiatives. Our focus is to protect data. We are a data protection company. So really we apply this technology in a method so that, not necessarily from DDoS, but more so just looking at it from an attack standpoint. How can we protect the environment and give the illusion that a bad actor is in an environment and touching, using, and interacting with real resources when they're not, and provide that high fidelity alert to the business. So we don't really look at the attack method as much as we do when a bad actor is in, what are the course of actions that they're going to have to take in order to potentially propagate an attack, and we really look at it within the walls of your internal network.
Okay. Question here from Joel. How does ThreatWise reduce the time to deploy in the environment?
Yes, that's an interesting one. In terms of the architecture, the way that ThreatWise is deployed is via a virtual appliance. And with that virtual appliance, essentially the decoys are deployed from that appliance. Each appliance holds up to upwards of 500 sensors. So when we talk about coverage and surface area coverage, whether you're deploying one or hundreds, once we have the virtual appliance set up, which takes minutes, not days, it's very rapid in order to scale and cover your surface area. So in terms of when we talk about lightweight and rapidly configurable and the differences between honeypots and this technology, it really is meant to rapidly deploy and scale quickly for that quick coverage across the surface area.
Okay, question from Tony here. Can individuals restore mistakenly deleted files? Yeah, that, as we know, the human element.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so the important thing to remember is that this technology is complementary to data protection, right? Our focus is always protecting data. There is a lot of goodness in the solution for security teams, IT professionals that help protect business assets at large, but our core tenet, our core focus is to protect data. And some of the key functionality within Metallic is to make sure data is compliant, safe, and recoverable from data loss threats. The conversation here is obviously squarely focused on malicious attacks, whether that be external or internal, but we do provide those tools across our portfolio, really at a foundational level, to be able to recover data. God forbid it gets deleted, corrupted, it's at the hands of attack, right? Our focus is to always deliver those capabilities for those data loss scenarios. So out of the box with Metallic, yes, that's all covered with our our data protection capabilities.
Well, speaking of the human element here, and we all know that fast response times are key. So we have an audience member here wondering if they're able to send notifications directly to their security team.
Yes, yep. So it really happens in one of two methods, right? So we can pipe these alerts directly into a SIM or a system that the security team's using, which many customers prefer. We also have alerting mechanisms within Metallic. So that can be emails that are sent directly to stakeholders or shared inboxes. So you can either have it populate via the systems for the tools that the security team uses, or to various aliases and so forth if there's another preferred method of notifying that team.
Well, speaking of fun spy language, we have a question here. What types of decoys can I configure?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the unique part around ThreatWise is not only do we have pre-configured ones on the shelf, but if it has an IP address, we can also emulate it as well. So out of the box, emulate things like Windows machines or Linux machines, Mac endpoints, servers such as databases. We could even replicate the backup environment, right? So we know that backups are a target for ransomware as well. Being able to replicate with a pre-configured sensor for your backup environment. Virtual machines, IoT devices, printers, right? Smart switches, things like that. Networking assets, VPNs, and I mentioned switches already, but then there's also vertical specific ones. If you're in the medical field, industrial field, financial field, there's also pre-configured sensors that we have for that. So these are on the shelf, these are out of the box, but as I had mentioned, we have what we call an adaptive sensor as well. And essentially the way that the adaptive sensor works is we could replicate any network asset in a customer environment. So really all that's needed there is being able to scan and really get at any specific item that has an IP address. With ThreatWise, we go ahead and we replicate and spin up a threat sensor, a decoy that looks like and behaves like that specific item in your environment. So there's things on the shelf that you could use day one, pre-configured, but if you have highly specialized assets, whether that's IT, OT, IoT, we can get at that as well.
That's pretty cool. I like that ability to customize and make sure that you're getting what's going to work for you. We have had a few questions already today about different industries, healthcare, and things with different compliance issues. So that's always really good to be aware of. Does it use any storage?
Yeah, so there's no storage in the solution, right? So that's something that's a little bit more specific to our data protection offering, right? But this is a really passive technology. There's no storage fees or egress or ingress that's typical with some providers in this space. This is very focused on really providing an alert and early warning signal into threats to be able to protect your data sooner. there really is no data that's being stored within the solution. And one thing that I would just add that I think I omitted from the last question, I think we often hear kind of questions around what sensor types to use or kind of what the optimal approach looks like. With Metallic, we're protecting data at its core, right? We know where that data lives, we know what type of environment that is, and we can make intelligent decisions around the type of decoys that we set within the environment. But it's not always the conventional things that attackers are going after, right? If I'm doing discovery or reconnaissance, I may be looking for the path of least resistance. So sometimes, yes, it is databases. Sometimes, yes, it is servers. But sometimes it's, the smart thermostat that you have on your wall or a forklift on the manufacturing floor. So the ability to not only have those pre-configured sensors, but also the ability to emulate things that are very unique to yourself gives that optimal ability to cover your surface areas in unconventional ways.
Perfect. I'm a big fan of unconventional. That's great. All right. Well, I wish we could keep going because we have a lot of questions still coming in for you, but we are going to have to wrap it there, Zach. Before you leave us, if anyone is out there pumped up, ready to get started and jump in with Metallic, what do they do? What's their first step?
Yeah, go to metallic.io. We have there's a specific dedicated page. You can get more details on ThreatWise. We have an interactive demo out there that you could click through to see the experience. We also could set up a demo. There's a trial available, so head over to metallic.io. That should have everything that you need there.
Perfect. I love that. Okay, well, again, Zach, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise. Take care.
And a big thank you to everyone who filled out that poll. Again, that feedback is so important, and I know what you're all waiting for. We got to move it along, but I am going to very quickly give away some prizes. So up next, we have a $500 Amazon gift card. I'm going to remind you all that you do need to be present here at the live webinar, having a good time with us here right now in order to qualify to win. All right, so the next $500 Amazon gift card is going to Alan Grant of California. Alan Grant of California, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. And our next winner of the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4 nailed it. That is going to JD Donato of Arizona. JD Donato of Arizona, you have won a new Samsung. So congratulations to Alan and to JD. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prizes after we wrap. I'm going to remind you that there's lots more chances to win, plus that best question card. So make sure that you get your questions in, especially in our next two sessions here, because we've got some great discussion to have. Speaking of which, let's jump into our next session. So up next, I am so excited to introduce you all to a really incredible expert speaker, Anthony Suarez, Cloud Product Evangelist at OVH Cloud. Anthony, it is so great to have you here on the MegaCast. I know you've got a lot of great content to get into, so I'm going to hand the mic right on over to you.
Right on. Well, thank you so much. Let's get this rolling. Good, it's working. All righty. So we're going to be talking today about achieving business continuity at the infrastructure level, and that's me. So hope you're all doing well from wherever it is in the world that you're dialing in from. And again, my name is Anthony Suarez, and I am the Product Cloud Evangelist for OVH Cloud. And today, a couple of things we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the importance of business continuity at the infrastructure level, or how to distribute data protection, and is really a critical strategy for your IT resilience, some key infrastructure solutions for your disaster recovery, and what disaster recovery looks like with OVH Cloud and our industry-leading partners. And finally, we'll wrap up with some questions and answers. And so without further ado, let's get going. So now, when we're talking about the latest bells and whistles that you hear about that are being offered by DR software, I understand those are all top of mind because everybody's really worried about how we're going to protect our environment and what are the cool features that different products providers are offering. But there's always going to be gaps in your infrastructure, and one of the first things you really want to take a look at is malicious attacks. Okay, so we're really looking at worms, spyware, ransomware, that type of stuff. You always want to be aware of those. You also have to worry about complexity, additional complexity. As tools get more complex and you're adding in new features and all these different products, that adds to the complexity as well as the infrastructure. And finally, we want to worry about cost because we really want, obviously, a secure environment, But we got to take into account these different aspects when we make decisions. And while having the right DR solution for your business needs is critical, obviously, for business continuity, it's just as important that sufficient measures are taken to ensure IT resilience and that it can be achieved at both the software and the infrastructure level. So distributed data protection, as the name implies, is when your data is distributed across multiple geographical locations. Making your data available in more than one place helps achieve a more robust DR plan, in the event that one location is compromised. We can minimize downtime by quickly getting your organization back online using the data that's safe and sound in a separate data center far away from the compromised one. Distributed data protection goes hand in hand with the 3-2-1 rule of thumb for data protection. That's the 3-2-1 rule of thumb is having your data at least 3 copies, 2 different media types, and 1 offsite location. And with distributed data protection, you have your data readily available across multiple locations, which is it's great because everyone, even the big 3 cloud providers, everyone knows, they shut down from time to time. So we should all protect ourselves and ensure our data is available across multiple locations and providers as well. Clicking over. So mid-February last year, many of us will remember when Texas saw an unusual cold snap that turned into a devastating ice storm that took out critical utilities across the state. The initial storm hit was on February 13th, 2021. But the damage and repairs went on for months, and widespread power outages and shutdowns of water services could have easily, just meant disaster for the state's data centers. Now, as bad as the storm was, and as tenuous as things got, most data centers made it out okay. And how did they do it? Well, the data centers that were getting close to running out of fuel for their generators got extremely lucky. Competitor data centers with more than enough fuel were kind enough to share, and share the love, and pass it around with those that were almost running out. And that enabled the state to avert what could have been a huge disaster. For everyone who relies on Texas-based data centers to serve their applications and stuff, their data and content and customers, this should have been an eye-opener into just how close your organization could have been to being compromised during the storm. And we're happy to see when companies are, helping each other out and pulling together in tough times. But, let's be honest, I'll play the devil's advocate. If these data centers couldn't get the fuel to keep their power running, businesses would have been compromised, and it would have been, it would have cost millions. Okay? Natural disasters don't just happen to Texas, this is obvious. They can happen anywhere. So it's important we all learn from the Texas freeze and make sure our disaster recovery plans include distributed data protection. So you may be thinking right now, wow, that would be cool. I would love to have, it would probably be good to have my data distributed across multiple locations. But let's be honest. To be fully transparent, there are challenges that it can bring. Okay. If we look at it, the 2 major challenges whenever we talk about distributing our data and putting our data in different locations is either cost, because data protection, it's a must for data, or at least in our provision. OVH Cloud feels that it's really important to have your data in different locations. We know it can be expensive to push that data across different regions, and you'll need a networking team to manage the IT complexities. We also recognize, building out routers and switches and hubs, and all the issues that, it takes a lot of planning. And your IT teams are probably already crushed, with their day-to-day activities, and backup and data resiliency experts are always needed. Disaster recovery as a service providers would make sure this is all taken care of on a daily and weekly basis to help you out to build that resiliency. With that in mind, OVH Cloud, we offer a suite of products that we can help you achieve business continuity while being cost conscious and taking that complexity out of your IT resilience. So to start, let's talk a little bit about VRAC. Okay, this is a OVH Cloud product, and so VRAC is actually, it stands for Virtual Rack, and the OVH technology lets you back up your data to multiple locations through private secure networks, and there's no charge for moving your data. This means that you're able to achieve distributed data protection through VRAC to make sure your data is available in any of our data centers worldwide, whether it's in Vint Hill or Roubaix or Gravelines in France or Beauharnois in Montreal. Let's call it Canada. There's Frankfurt, there's London. We've got a lot of data centers around the world. And again, VRAC is able to do a layer 2 stretch anywhere in the world that we have a data center, and you can push your data there. VRAC also lives in OVH's Cloud's guaranteed low latency network, and you get throughputs of up to 50 gigabytes or gigabits per second, depending on your plan. But we also, the cool thing about VRAC is each VRAC is able to support up to 4,000 individual VLANs. So not only can you at layer 2 distribute in your environment, distribute data to different data centers, but even within a data center, or even within different product families of OVH, you can use those different VLANs and isolate traffic any way you like. And finally, you can easily build these private, these complex private infrastructures at the different data centers without needing to get into the weeds of networking. We've automated a lot of that configuration. So with a few clicks on the portal, you're able to establish these more complex networks. Now, with that, we also offer OVH Cloud Connect. Now, OVH Cloud Connect takes VRAC to the next level because it establishes a direct connection from your on-premise data center to an OVH Cloud data center through one of our available points of presence. We partner with, for instance, Equinix, so we have a lot of POPs available in the United States. And by connecting via one of these POPs, you have access right away to the VRAC. And again, once you're on the VRAC, we're not charging for traffic no matter where in the world it goes, which is a huge point. You get a complete dedicated line, and there's no worries you don't have to push data across the internet anymore. You have that dedicated bandwidth. And if there's an internet outage or security breach somewhere, you're able to isolate that traffic. Because again, on a VLAN, as you all know, everything's encrypted and point to point. And we do provide data speeds anywhere from 200 megabits up to 10 gigabits, again, depending on your plan. Now, for key infrastructure, the cherry on top really is that, let me see. One of the things that we also, I'm sorry, I'm thinking ahead. One of the other things that we also do is that we also provide a lot of add-ons just to our customers, just for being customers. So we do provide firewalls, and our firewalls, we actually offer them at the IP address level. So you can configure firewall rules before traffic even gets anywhere near your environment. We also offer cutting-edge anti-DDoS protection. That anti-DDoS protection we have withstood massive attacks, and that is offered to our customers free of charge, which is interesting because, and it's, I'm not saying anything about other competitors, but I know, it is the truth. Many competitors force you to purchase the anti-DDoS protection. And let's be honest, you're paying a couple of $1,000 a month just for the opportunity to be protected. But if you should get hit, you never know if the size of the attack. And if the attack is really huge, you could be on the hook not only for the protection, but also for any data that, any bandwidth in use that was generated by the attack. So you can get another bill for that traffic, and you'll never see that with us. You'll also see the geolocation capabilities and all of the automation that comes with us that we strive to make it easy for customers to build their environments. Now, with disaster recovery, OVH Cloud Partner, and before I forget, I knew I lost my brain there for a second. I apologize. there is one other thing that is really important with us. The fact that we have been partners with VMware since, for over 10 years. And we were the first partner in the world that actually offered VMware solutions in the cloud. And the beauty of that is we offer a full dedicated environment. I know that there are providers out there that are offering VPSs or similar to VPSs. They're VMware environments, but you're really limited, especially because they use the vCloud Director to, you're seeing VMs. So it's very similar to a VPS environment. But with us, you do get the full access to the vCenter, vSphere web client. So your tool set doesn't change from your on-prem to your cloud environment. It's the same tool set. And, I want to make sure I included that. So let's kick it off. So aside from the partners we have, we partner with Zerto. And I know that we got Zerto in the house today, so shout out to you guys because you really have some awesome disaster recovery solutions. As I'm sure you guys can guess, we partner for disaster recovery with, Zerto's continuous data protection and instant recovery. With that, you can achieve the lowest recovery point objectives, the RPOs, and the fastest recovery times, or the RTOs, so you can securely replicate from your on-premises data center to your hosted private cloud, or even between hosted private clouds that are located on opposite ends of the country with OVH. That means if a disaster ever strikes, you can recover almost instantly and get your organization back up quickly. The platform, I don't know if you guys have looked, but the platform itself is really user-friendly, and so you spend a lot less time scratching your head during a disaster recovery. But something that's really special with our partnership with Zerto is that we have automated the deployment of the full Zerto environment so that if a customer comes on and presses a button saying, yeah, we want to deploy Zerto, our automation deploys all of the Zerto required components in our data center. And if you have using two data centers with OVH, it will actually synchronize and connect those two data centers and have all of the Zerto plumbing put in for you. If you're using Zerto on-prem to OVH Cloud, again, you hit the button, the OVH Cloud side will have the Zerto deployed, and then you can work with one of our sales engineers and we'll help you deploy on your side to make the connection and get up and running as quickly as possible. And finally, we are actually offering a 30-day free trial of Zerto for the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So if you've been looking to just try disaster recovery in the cloud and you're looking at trying the solution, now's the perfect chance to try it in your own environment and test use cases specific to your business. And it's only available till the end of October. But if you click on the Start Free Trial button on your screen, or if you head on over to ovhcloud.com, we can get you started and just give it a 30-day trial. Now, also, right up, we've got Veeam, which I'm sure you guys have heard of before. In case you haven't, Veeam is a leader in the backup space. And OVH Cloud, we partner with them for your backup needs. So Veeam's available on OVH Cloud through our Backup as a Service, where we manage your backups for you. Or if you prefer managing Veeam on your own, we have licenses available, and we fully support the enterprise implementation. So the cool thing about Veeam is that you can protect your data and your backups with immutability, so it becomes a read-only tamper-proof, which is important, especially when we're looking at all this ransomware going on. So you really want to make sure that your backups are in a space that is unchangeable. And then, again, we offer cost-effective solutions for storage to make that long-term storage, whether it's archive or your capacity tier in Veeam, we make that available as well. And there we go. I jumped ahead of my own slides. So we do partner with VMware, and you've already heard my spiel. Sorry, guys. I jumped ahead of myself. So we do offer all of the suite. We offer access to your host. We do offer, like I said before, a fully dedicated stack of hardware. So you do get two or more, however many you want, servers. The other cool thing about our dedicated environment is that it is constantly monitored with a heartbeat. If for some reason one of the hosts should go down, we will inject another host into the vCloud server, and it'll show up in your environment, and then VMware's processes like the DRaaS, the distributed resource scheduling, it'll automatically reload balance everything, and you will not have any downtime. As soon as your servers are repaired, they get placed back in. All of that is included. We don't charge you more for making those servers available as customers. And again, you do get full access to your vSphere client, so you don't have a big difference in the environment and your tool set. And that is pretty much it. We can move on, and we can take a couple of questions. And let's see, just in case,
yeah,
one of the things. Yeah.
Hey, Anthony. Sorry,
yeah.
I snuck in on the phone here.
It's all good.
I'm just gonna move the poll over for us here. Anthony, I feel like you and I are on the same wavelength today. We're both having a weird brain day, so I'm with you. Hopefully the audience doesn't mind too much. Laugh along with us, not at us, please. I do want to tell you all that we have a poll up on the screen for you because we want to know what additional information you would like to get from OVH Cloud. Obviously, Anthony already just hit a lot of great information. We've got some awesome questions coming in. So I know you guys are hungry and looking to learn a little bit more. This is a great way to let them know how they can follow up with you. Anthony, what do you think? Should we jump into some questions?
Well, while we're waiting for questions, there are some questions that we get, I've got I don't want to say they're seed questions because they're not. I get hit with these, and we get hit with these really often. And so let's just talk about them. Some of the times, what are some of the security controls that are in place at OVH, and how do we know that our data is safe? And in answer to that, we are fully compliant with. We've got HIPAA, we've got ISO, we've got the PCI DSS standards, we've got SOC compliance, we've got SOC 2, Type 2. So we do maintain all of the security certifications for our data centers, and your data is, we treat it that way. And just to think about, sometimes I've been asked, so what's the big difference between SOC 2, Type 1, and Type 2? Because we make a big deal of being Type 2. And SOC 2 Type 1 is a report that declares the effectiveness of security controls for a specific point in time, whereas Type 2, the report details the effectiveness of the security controls over a significant period of time. So the fact that we are certified at Type 2, that it's not just, hey, today we were doing well, tomorrow not so much. It's definitely taken care of. We take it very seriously.
Well, yes, obviously, and clearly. We did get a question because a lot of what's come up today, Anthony, is how fast people can move. So Nathan was wondering if you could give him a little bit of an idea of the time frame for a full disaster recovery. Okay,
that is really cool because one of the things, because we partner with Veeam and Zerto, and we do provide another, a DR site, a fully functioning VMware environment, it can be a matter of minutes, and I'm talking for full back to business, not just data. So with Zerto, when we implement Zerto as part of a disaster recovery solution, you're looking at RPOs of 2 or 3 seconds. I mean, Zerto has really done an awesome job of maintaining really low RPOs. So your data is secure and there's very little delta in the changes. But if there's an outage, let's just say power goes out at your on-site, all it takes is however long it takes you to literally log into the portal for Zerto and hit the failover button, and all of a sudden everything starts failing over. And since if it's an outage where it's not a nice failover that's well structured. I mean, it's just you're out. You still have such a low RPO, you lose a couple of seconds of time, and the servers spin up, and that's the only out time. And we're not talking about hours or days. The beauty of this type of solution is that, because I've done it before years ago in my career, we had, disaster recovery meant we had physical boxes in a different building in another part of the city. And, we're down over here. Okay, well, let's have this massive book and let's rebuild. With virtualization and having a virtual environment in the cloud, it's already waiting for you. All you need to do is literally flip a button and up spins the replacement environment. And it's because of Zerto, the replication makes it really almost no time lost. And with Veeam, I mean, not to shortchange Veeam, they have an awesome backup solution as well. And to be able to have data safely stored. I mean, let me give you an example really quick. I know we're running short on time, but I have a customer. They're on the West Coast, data centers on the West Coast. They have a virtual environment in the cloud, and they do their backups internally using Veeam. What they did was, that was their production environment. They spun up their dev environment, but rather than spin up their dev environment in the same data center, they went and put the dev environment on the East Coast in our Vint Hill data center. And what they do is, because it doesn't cost any difference, the data centers don't change the price, you pay the same, but they were able to do their backups in their production and push copies of those backups across the country on a dedicated line and store the backups in the secondary site, on their dev site in Vint Hill. And their Vint Hill gets backed up locally and copies are pushed back across. And because they're on our wire, they don't pay anything. So they were able to add geolocation to their disaster recovery plans at basically no additional cost. Because if they're going to have a separate dev environment anyways, we don't charge extra for where it sits, and we're not charging the data. We literally have no zones. So you're really able to plan for regional outages now without, and not have to be focused simply on the local, which is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hope that answered the question.
And you did. You actually knocked off a few other questions that people had asked too, so that was great. Anthony, I cannot tell you how much I wish we could keep going with this. We are pretty short on time. So before you take off, I do want to ask you, if somebody out there is really excited about OVH Cloud, and I know that everyone in the audience is because I can see these questions coming in, what do they do to get started? What is their next step?
Easiest thing is just come on over to ovhcloud.com. And there's contact information. Reach out to us. We're happy to speak with you, and we can answer your questions and just discuss what are your needs. What are you looking for? That's honestly that's the fastest.
Yeah, that's it. Just have a conversation. Yeah, easy's good. We're big on easy here. Oh, man. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for such a fun and engaging presentation. I love your energy. I love that you're feeling a little brain chaos today. I think some of us are right there with you. And I appreciate you coming to talk about the OVH solution. I hope we get to chat again soon.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you much.
All right, and thanks to everyone out there who filled out one of the poll questions. I do really appreciate that feedback. We will make sure that goes to OVH Cloud as well as all the questions asked. So I know that we didn't get to all the questions asked today before we'll have to wrap. So keep those questions coming in. We will make sure that they go to OVH Cloud and that you will get solutions or answers back to them. And before we move into our next presentation, I am going to give away another $500 Amazon gift card. And this one, let's see, a reminder again, you do need to be here present at the live webinar to win. Our next lucky winner of a $500 Amazon gift card is Robert Sedler of Pennsylvania. Robert Sedler of Pennsylvania, congratulations on your $500 Amazon gift card. That's always a nice way to wrap up an afternoon, and we will be in touch about claiming your prize after the webinar. Now, there is still one more chance to win a gift card and one more chance to win a prize plus that best question card from every session. And reminder that is even if we don't get to your question in the live webinar, you're still entered to win just by asking. So keep those questions coming in. Well, folks, I have to say, I don't know how this has happened already. I've been having so much fun with you all today, but here we are at our very last session of the MegaCast, and I promise you that we have quite the grand finale in store for you all. Up next, I am so excited to introduce you all to Sham Oza, Director of Product Management at Spanning here. Sham, thank you so much for being here with us to bring us home in style today. I know you've got some great content to get into, so I'm going to hand the mic right on over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much. And, thank you to the entire audience. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us across the world and taking your time to talk about how to fix your broken data protection DRaaS and disaster recovery strategies. One of the things that I think, myself and folks in our industry are in a unique situation where we get to talk to folks like you all the time about your successes, your failures, your challenges, what you're looking at down the road. And I think one of the things that's really important is not just to talk about the great tools and solutions that we have, but share some of that, insight with you guys. So I really hope that this is, not just making you aware of solutions and technologies that we have, and we can talk about that all day, but I hope that you get something valuable out of today's session. And so some of the topics that I want to cover around data protection are really around two major themes, right? The first is dealing with the challenges of a hybrid world. And, for those of you guys who have been kind of cloud cowboys for a while, hybrid means one thing. And the last few years in society have unfortunately told us that hybrid can mean something very, very different when it comes to hybrid work. So we'll be talking about the challenges that you get with both and how we help you with that. We'll talk a little bit about, some of the misunderstandings that lead to those frustrations with the shared responsibility model. And then we'll talk about what I think is the real threat to your data, right? Which is social engineering. And we're seeing things like this happen in the real world today with Uber, Rockstar, insurance companies like Kaiser Permanente, and the rest. And then we'll have a nice Q&A session afterwards and introduce you guys to an opportunity, to look into our tools and services and things like that. So to start this off, and some of you guys may have seen this, but this is why, we're around. And the business of backup is important because regardless of how many tools, procedures, policies, whatever we may have in place, we have seen a trend that 77% of companies or organizations that use a SaaS application, at least one, will suffer some kind of data loss or data corruption incident within the last year. So if it hasn't happened to you, very, very lucky. You may not be aware of it if it's happened to you, or maybe you've successfully recovered from one of these incidents, which is great news. And I really want to kind of get into why this is happening and how to prevent it. A lot of times we're here to talk to you about a solution and how quickly you could recover and how quickly you could get your data back. But what if we were in a situation where we never lost the data in the first place, right? And a lot of that comes with training, policies, and also understanding the world we live in. And so let's talk a little bit about the hybrid world. And hybrid really means two different things, and they're both growing very, very rapidly. The first is the one that we've been kind of getting familiar with in the near term, which is the rise of the remote and hybrid workers. And we're seeing no slowdown in this. I've been to a number of different industry events outside of, just IT, but just seeing what's going on at the C-suite and things like that. And most of them have acknowledged that this is going to continue and it's going to continue to grow. And so as the number of hybrid workers increases, the challenges that people have been facing with hybrid work are increasing. Their workstations are harder to back up. They're harder to secure. They're harder to monitor, update, and troubleshoot. Why? They're not sitting behind your firewall. They may not even be on corporate hardware. They may be using bring your own device. Or they may be using SaaS applications and they're entirely in the cloud, and that's even harder to coordinate with because now they're on their mobile phone, they're on their laptop and their desktop, just roaming around the world. On the flip side of things, we have our infrastructure. And on that side, we're also looking at a hybrid world that's accelerating very, very rapidly. We are now at a point where 82% of organizations have adopted or are looking at adopting a hybrid approach to their cloud infrastructure or their workload. So that could be email, collab, finance, whatever it might be, marketing. That can all start to shift to the cloud. But at the same time, people are realizing that certain workloads while I can toss email into Google or Office 365 or Microsoft 365, maybe I have certain legacy applications that are running on Linux. Maybe I have certain workloads that could run in SaaS, but are pretty sensitive. Maybe they contain, IP. Maybe they contain public information and things like that. And that has to stay on-prem. And so what happens in this case? We try to account for all of these users. We try to account for all of these different infrastructure deployments. And what we end up with are these main problems. We live in a world now where backup is more fragmented than ever. Organizations are deploying and managing up to 3 different solutions from different vendors to protect data in their various locations, whether that's endpoints, the cloud, or whatever it might be. Backup is also incredibly time-consuming. A lot of times, and maybe it's because of all of these different solutions, customers have to deal with 33% of their technician or engineer's day just being wasted in monitoring, managing, and troubleshooting backups, not even actually doing the recovery or adding value. That's being taken away. That time is being removed from them. That could be used to do things like onboard users, deploy a new application, update SharePoint, whatever it might be. And adding productivity and value to the business is taken away by just making sure the backups are up and running or getting them back up and running. And ultimately, these two things lead to the final consequence, which is that you're not able to have, kind of a simplified one-size-fits-all pricing model. You're not able to have a single vendor where things like SLAs, your support contact, how familiar they are with your environment, all that stuff goes out the window. And you can't even take advantage of simple things like bundling, right? When you're going to different vendors, if you're not bundling with them, you may not be able to get the best value. And so we know you live in this world. And the most important thing is whether you're working with Spanning, Unitrends, both of us, we are all one family. So if you've got workloads sitting in Microsoft 365, Salesforce, you have an on-prem file share, and you have a legacy application that's sitting on Linux, or maybe you have hybrid SharePoint with some SharePoint sitting on-prem, we have a solution for you. I'm not going to go into the details of every single solution. We want to talk to you about those that are specific to your use case. But pretty much, if you're in the cloud, if you're in your private cloud, or you're on-prem on bare metal, we've probably got a solution for you. Now, the main reason this happens, and I want to be very clear here, right? Some of us are like, duh, Shyam, I know about this stuff. I need to be able to educate our leadership or our decision makers. So one thing is we need to be very honest with ourselves. We need to have an honest conversation. And that is that people say they understand, they know their SLAs. They understand the limitations of their SaaS providers. But we are surveying people and looking at data from other research organizations as well, and we're seeing a pretty common trend. 33% of organizations or users surveyed still believe that cloud-based applications don't need any kind of backup. Now, that is terrifying, and I hope the overwhelming majority, the opposite of that, is all on this call. But there are people, even in greater number, who assert their awareness with all SaaS SLAs. So, for example, people will be told, well, I heard Microsoft has a 24-hour backup. Yes, that's true, but have you asked questions about what that recovery process looks like? How do you start it? When do you open a ticket? Are you going to accept that that site collection is going to get frozen in a read-only state and then rolled back, and you lose all of your data from the last 24 hours when you just wanted to get a single Excel file back? So a lot of times people think of their SLAs as availability and uptime, but it's far more than that. What does your recovery look like? What is the granularity of that recovery? And I think the reason that happens is we sometimes forget that SaaS doesn't just take away all of our responsibility, right? SaaS takes the majority of the stack. So if a power failure happens, if a switch goes bad, if a hard drive gets busted, the vendor is going to take care of that all the way up to the application layer. But it is still, when you look at these last three layers, it is a big chunk of the responsibility. So the vendor is taking care of things like the hardware, the software, they're handling your delete requests. But if you make that delete request by accident, or you execute a script by accident, I've actually done that. I executed a script using my production credentials against Salesforce rather than my sandbox credentials. That was a bit of a nightmare. Or, unfortunately, there could be malicious insider activity. Codespaces a couple of years ago, an angry employee got all the keys to Amazon and blew away all of their containers and even their backups. And at that point, just completely put them out of business and many of their customers in trouble as well. Then you've got the external hackers. And then ultimately, when these systems are compromised, they then get flooded with things like ransomware and viruses. And if these things result in data loss, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, everybody is going to say some flavor of the same thing. That's not our fault. That was a valid request. And if you're saying, Sham, this is great, but this is a lot of information, I need a very, very simple way of explaining this. There is a big difference between high availability, which is all of the lovely nines that you have at the end of your SLA, and backup and restore. That's really what it comes down to. They are not the same thing. And backup and recovery, especially granular recovery, is not taken care of in the cloud. And I think one of the things that's very scary is that, we talk about hackers and things like that in hoods. We hear about ransomware attacks and things like that. But a lot of times we don't realize the source of the breach. And the source of the breach isn't always, we didn't have a backup, or the source of the problem isn't that we didn't have a backup product in place, but rather somebody just let the guys through the front door. I don't know if you've seen the news or heard about the Uber breach, but quite literally, this was a 17-year-old boy out of the United Kingdom. He got very, very crafty when the journalists actually asked him how he did it. He just found a set of compromised credentials on the dark web, used those compromised credentials to start spamming a employee with MFA requests and basically trying to add a device to the network. And then, after hours of spamming him, reached out to him on WhatsApp and convinced him that he was a member of IT and he's trying to fix an issue with his device. This employee then agreed because he wanted to stop getting spammed and focus on his job or whatever else that he was doing at the time, and then let this person into their network. Then he went into the company Slack channel and literally said, I'm a hacker, and the response from most of the employees in the company was LOL, emojis, GIFs, and things like that, to the point where Uber's internal IT had to send out an all-company message saying, I think IT would appreciate less memes while they handle the breach. So this also wasn't being taken seriously at the front door. So what does this have to do, necessarily with a data protection strategy? And what's really important there is to understand that before the person got access to those systems and then planted malware, deleted things, leaked your source code, extorted you, whatever it might be, there was a way before you even had to do the failover to prevent this from happening. And one of the things that I think people have to start looking at is thinking of data protection as a layered defense well beyond are we backed up and how quickly can we recover. How could we have prevented this in the first place? In the Uber hack alone, we realized that the credentials were likely phished or accessed in another breach. They were then exposed on the dark web, and then they were used to begin annoying this employee. And at that point, when that employee was annoyed, they fell for it, the credentials for the sensitive information was stored in an unsecure location. And it's very, very scary what some of these guys can do once they have access. So think about how this could have been prevented. Think about how sensitive credentials and things like that could have been stored in a more secure way. And people will try everything. What I will say is there's just a script that hasn't found you yet, no matter how professional you are. And actually, this screenshot here on the right side, the two white screenshots, is my cell phone for when I almost fell for an attack myself. I finally kind of got the gist of it, that it was a scam, and got away lucky. But when I was actually presenting this content at a conference, somebody raised their hand and said, we got a similar attack. And in our case, the employee actually spent $5,000 on their corporate credit card buying eBay gift cards for a scam artist. And they'll come up with all kinds of tricky ways. One of the other things we've seen is false Zoom or Teams links that hit your mailbox 15 minutes before, 5 minutes before a call, and hope that you click on a link. And we've got all kinds of solutions. I just showed you a bunch there that are in place. But sometimes protecting yourself isn't about just buying a tool and spending money. It's about thinking outside the box. And the reason I have a big pie of pizza here is that one of the biggest complaints I hear from folks is we have a problem training our employees. We have a problem getting their attention. Well, you know what? One thing you could do is use some of that IT budget, instead of on a bunch of expensive tools, hosting a pizza party. Have people come in, talk to them, maybe do it by department, do it by team, do it by office or region, whatever it might be, and put food in people's mouths, get their full attention, and then conduct things like cybersecurity training or make them aware about policy and things like that. It worked in college to get people to show up to clubs. It still works when we're all adults. And then, of course, outside of thinking, outside the box, think about your layers of defenses. So before you get to spanning or unit trends where you have to do a recovery, think of all the additional layers and tools and technology that could have been put in place to prevent that data breach from happening in the first place. So with that being said, I'd love to just have an open-ended discussion with some of you folks on this topic. And if you guys are interested, if you're looking for SaaS protection from spanning, you can go straight to our website, spanning.com, get started. We also have solutions if you're looking at protecting your on-prem or your hybrid workloads. Our sister company, Unitrends, we have integrations. We use the same central portal and all of that technology in a single pane of glass view. We also have other solutions like the ones that we talked about that can complement these solutions. And one of the things that's really strong is all of these products and tools that we have all talk to one another. So when an issue arises in spanning, tickets can be created in your PSA system. If dark web technology detects people that are breached on the dark web, we will let you know that your domain users inside of spanning have been breached. And we can do all of this as a white glove, service for you as well through managed SOC, or we can even do things for free with you, like help you build a business continuity and recovery plan. So there are, premium services, there are free services, there are premium products and free trials for basically the entire stack that you can imagine, from full SaaS all the way to bare metal.
Awesome. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Sean, for such an interesting presentation. Oh, you've done my next step for me. We've got that poll up for all of you. And what we're curious about in this case is we'd like to know if you would like to see a demo of spanning. And you can see if so, there's a couple of options up for you there. Sean, anything that you'd like to say about the options or the demo opportunity?
Yeah. So for example, we know that we have a number of customers that have both products and solutions. We know that we have customers that have interest, for example, on protecting their on-prem workloads. So even if you don't see one of your options up here. Sometimes people get confused, for Microsoft 365, that includes SharePoint Online, that includes Microsoft Teams. For Google Workspace, that includes Mail, Calendar, Contacts, your OneDrive. And for Salesforce, that includes our ability to back up your records as well as your business critical metadata. And one of the things that's amazing is all of these tools, together with anything that you have on-prem, can be surfaced in a single pane of glass and with a single kind of consolidated set of contacts and support representatives.
That's so important. Yeah, and folks, I mean, we all know that the best way to get familiar with a solution is a demo, is to really spend some time with it. So please do take a moment right now and let Fanny know if you'd like to get a demo, and if so, what you'd like to see. You can also feel free, if you don't see an option that you want up there, feel free to post it in the chat, and we'll make sure that goes right to Sham so that he will see that as well. Sham, I know we've got some questions coming in that I'd love to get into. We've got just a few minutes left here. Are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready and willing and waiting.
Perfect. That's what we like to hear. We actually got a couple of questions. You brought up the weakest link being the human firewall, and that always resonates with people. So, and Mark here made the comment that the best protection is good, educated, knowledgeable, trained end users. Rob's wondering what kind of support Fanny might have to kind of help alleviate that weakest link, to help shore up that weakest link there.
So we believe, and this is the important thing, is we believe if you have a weak link, empowering that weak link. And there are two ways that I can think of how Spanning and Spanning 360 empower those users. The first is in improving IT efficiency. So one of the worst things you can think of is getting inundated with support tickets or help requests because somebody lost a single file or email. One of the things that we can do, and of course it's completely optional if you don't trust your users, is the ability to create and enable self-service restore. And what that can actually do is allow a Microsoft 365 user or Google Workspace user to actually log in to just see their data and perform a non-destructive restore. And I think the reason that's important is it reduces the amount of time wasted by a technician in doing trivial tasks. It can empower your end users to take care of things and become more efficient. Another way I think you can empower them is one of our tools, our phishing defense, has a feature. So it's included in the phishing defense. It's not a premium feature or anything like that. But when you have our email protection and phishing defense, we have a way of surfacing a little banner at the top of every email where end users, if our AI detects a potentially suspicious email, they can actually self-report. And not only can they self-report it, so let's say someone in New York is getting scammed. If they report that scam is coming through, when their counterpart in California wakes up, that email will actually be removed from their inbox until an IT admin reviews the suspicious email and then kind of either quarantines it forever or re-releases it into the wild. So I think one of the important things is, sometimes our end users can frustrate us, but I've been kind of humbled by A, almost falling for a trick myself, and B, realizing that if you give these guys the right tools, besides just kind of badgering them with training, it can get pretty effective in bolstering your strategy. So empower your users with self-service features. Of course, you want to train them and stuff like that. But what's cool is when they do block a bad email, celebrate it. You can send out an email or a newsletter and say, hey, we had a tricky little attack that came in, and Bob from accounting or Susan from marketing caught it. And, this has been a really good lesson learned for all of us. And so I think there are paid, feature type capabilities that we have to empower our users that we can make available to you. And then just other kind of, organizational wide best practices that can help.
I love that. Some awesome answers there. and we definitely got some shout outs from the audience. And so clearly this is resonating with them. I really wish that we could keep going. We are pretty short on time here. Sham, before we let you go, is there, one thing, if you wanted everyone in the audience to walk away asking themselves or thinking about as we wrap up, because you're our last presenter on the MegaCast today, what is that one thing?
Please, 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 if you don't have a fully documented backup and recovery and business continuity plan, please reach out to us. We will help you set one up for free. I would rather have you have a plan with a bunch of other vendors and a bunch of other strategies in place than no plan at all. If you do not have a fully documented BCDR plan with call chains, points of escalations, when you're going to break glass and all that stuff, and it's not documented, please reach out to us at either Spanning or Unitrends. We will help you get that set up for free.
Love that. Okay, so is that the next step then? If somebody wants to get started, they're ready to get into Spanning, how do they reach out? How do they connect with you?
Oh, and you can definitely just go to spanning.com and click the free trial link in the top right. And honestly, if you're scared or nervous or anything like that, you can email me directly at soza, S-O-Z-A, @unitrends.com, and I'll make sure you get to the right person.
Perfect. I love that. Okay. Well, Sham, thank you again so much for being here with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and thank you guys for giving me some of your time.
All right, and a big thank you to everyone out there who filled out that poll and asked a question. We did get some really fantastic questions. I know we didn't get to all of them, and we do need to wrap and let you all get on about your days here, even though I have to say I'm always a little sad when these come to an end. But before you go and before we get in, because I know you see the prize up on the screen here, I do want to make sure that I remind you all to go check out the Handouts tab. You can find a complete SaaS backup buyer's guide. So, we hear from you guys all the time. How do I make these decisions? How do I evaluate these different vendors? What's the next move for me in the next step in terms of this evaluation process? So it's all right there for you, this complete SaaS backup buyer's guide. So go check that out in the Handouts tab from Spanning. Very, very, very cool. And make sure you've got that downloaded to read after we wrap today. Okay. And we will get into our very last prize giveaway. We're going to do both a $500 Amazon gift card and a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4 to give away. I realize that I have flipped at least 3 or 4 times between Z and Z, so I hope that has not been driving you crazy today. A quick reminder that you do need to be present here at the webinar in order to win, and our final lucky winner of a $500 Amazon gift card today is Paul Erickson of Nebraska. Paul Erickson of Nebraska. And our final winner of a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4 is Ronnie Lee DeCola of California. Ronnie Lee DeCola of California. So congratulations to Paul on your gift card, and congrats to Ronnie Lee on your new Samsung. As always, we'll be in touch about claiming your prize after the webinar wraps today. And then I did promise that I would do a full prize winners list. I love you guys testing out my vocal cords today. Let's do it. So gift card 1 went to Patrick McHale of Ohio. The first Samsung went to Michael Spurlock of Montana, and a gift card going to Brett Easley of Kansas, and a Samsung going to Bill Wong of Maryland. A gift card going to Helen Alexander of North Carolina, and a Samsung going to Melissa Rose of Maryland. A gift card going to Alan Grant of California, and a Samsung going to JD Donato of Arizona. Then a gift card going to Robert Sedler of Pennsylvania. A gift card going to Paul Erickson of Nebraska, and a Samsung going to Ronnie Lee DeCola of California. Whew, I did it. I got through it. Done and done. And I just want to say that I see a couple of votes, including Justin just told me he prefers Z over Z. Interesting. Good feedback. Okay. All right. I'm ready for that next time. Congratulations to all our winners. I do want to remind you all that we will be reviewing all the best questions asked after we wrap up today. So if you did ask a question during the session and we didn't get to it live, there's still a chance that you will win. So stay tuned for that. And before you folks all head out today, I do want to remind you to check out the Actual Tech Media ransomware guide. It's there in the handouts tab. You can find everything you need to know about ransomware, or just head to ransomware.org for more information on that. And that link there on your screen is clickable, so click on that. Oh, thanks, Edgar. We think you're the best too. Thanks for that. Loving the good vibes out there today. If you are on the webinar today and you would like to come chat with us about presenting on a future summit, EcoCast, MegaCast, webinar, whatever you have in mind, we would love to hear from you. We are having a good time here today, so come in and join in that. Just shoot us a message at connect@actualtechmedia.com. We would definitely love to start that conversation with you. Well, and with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I really want to thank all our speakers today from Zerto and Tierepoint, from Rubric, Haiku, Metallica, Commvault Venture, OVH Cloud, and Spanning for making this megacast possible. A special thank you to all of you for attending and asking some great questions. You know, I always have fun on these megacasts. Today felt a little particularly goofy. I don't know what was in the air today. And I just had a great time chatting with all of you about how we can fix up our broken data protection and disaster recovery programs. So I hope that you've all learned some interesting and helpful tips today, and you feel maybe a little more ready to tackle whether it's small tweaks or giant overhauls that you need to enhance your organization's protection and recovery strategies. Now, before you take off today, be sure to mark your calendar and come back to join us on Thursday, October 13th. Folks, that's tomorrow. We are already almost halfway through October. So Thursday, October 13th, tomorrow, there's an EcoCast on endpoint management and protection tools. So you know that's going to be an interesting discussion, a great follow-up from the session today. So register now. Come join us for that at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Now, I hope to see you all at a webinar again soon. And until then, I hope you all have an absolutely beautiful rest of your day.